The brain, no? Hello? Huh? Oh, it works. Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. We're about to start. If you can grab a seat, or you can bring your drinks or food. I don't see too much from here, so I trust you that you're coming and grabbing a seat. Nice. So 10, 9, 8, no. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to this wonderful event of Build.Well.Being. I am Gabs. I will be your moderator for the day. If you are wondering, like, who is this Gabs that is talking to me, you know, because for me it's important that I know who's talking to me. Well, I am the founder of the XR Vienna community, which is Austria's biggest XR community platform of exchange from creators and users. And amongst other things, but one thing to highlight is I'm also the Austrian ambassador of Women in Immersive Tech Europe. So if you have any questions regarding these two communities, please feel free to ask after the event. So, by a raise of hands, of course I have to do a raise of hands, no? To get to know you as well. So, who is already using XR on a user level, like as a user regularly? May I see your hands? Okay. And who is already using XR for a project? Oh, I like the clusters, no? Like very good, you're sitting all together. That's very nice. So who hasn't tried like VR or AR at all? Okay. I'm very happy to show you about like how you will lose your virginity today. Community humor, community humor. So anyway, as I said, thank you very much for being here. We have a very exciting event today. We have two exciting segments of keynote talks with one networking event break in between. And also, we have a peek inside the brilliant minds shaping the future of XR through their student pitch presentations. So before we continue, I would like to thank our partners for this event. The St. Pölten University of Applied Sciences, specifically the Center for Digital Health and Social Innovation, and also the Master Program in Digital Healthcare. And XR Vienna, the community as well, very happy, yay! And our network partners. So, introduction to the topic. The reason why you see me reading a lot is because I can talk for 3 days, and you're not here to listen to me, so I have to summarize it. But I want to share with you something that I've been reading not so long ago. It was a PwC report about the similarities between the metaverse and health equity, actually. I mean, this was the topic of the report. But it made me think a lot about, like, what do they have in common, right? So they both are large, complex, and multifaceted concepts. They're both often misunderstood and with powerful implications that go beyond one particular industry, location, or population. And also, both were amplified by the pandemic. The metaverse demonstrated its ability to connect, while healthcare systems suffer worsening struggles with access to and affordability to healthcare. So today we have an opportunity to see an alternative to reimagine healthcare within and beyond the industry. You're going to hear from experts, companies, institutions, and even bright students creatively redefining the meaning of caring for our health. From checking in on our health professionals to know if we are okay to perform a task, to groundbreaking tech that can reduce the margins of error when performing life-saving procedures. I invite you to be curious, critical, and dare to make the tough questions, because the time is now. So we need real conversations about virtual and augmented reality in order for us to achieve the technological revolution in healthcare we're all hoping for. And not just for the few, but for all of us. So with these words, I also, two more things. I know, Gab, shut up, no? But I will tell you two more things. So I'm very happy that this event has a 50-50 gender equality in these panels that you're going to see, in these talks that you're going to see, and also that you will see experts as much as students. Why am I saying this as a wonderful thing? Because when you are an expert, you have the experience in the field, let's say. But when you're a student, you have the passion and the motivation of building something with relatively no limitations. And this is wonderful. I don't get that anymore. I mean, I have to compromise every single day of my life in a good, positive way. So I'm very happy to have this exchange for all of you. And I hope that we can also have an interactive event. So please feel free to also ask questions to the speakers. And also, as I said, be critical about it. You know, don't take anything you say for granted, because we may have some of the answers we're looking for, but not all of them, and the answers can change along the way. The speakers are going to kill me now because of what I said. But anyway, so, I love doing this. So I would like to introduce you to the first speaker of the day, Nina Dalkner, that is going to be talking about XR resilience training for healthcare workers. Where's Nina? Yay. Welcome, Nina.
So, it works. Great. Yeah, thank you very much, Gabs, for the introduction, and thanks for the invitation. I got used to the light, but I hope it works now. Okay, I'm very pleased to talk about empowering healthcare workers with XR resilience trainings. And do I have a presenter or something like that? And before I start into XR resilience solutions, no, sorry. How does it work? Okay, before I start to present you some XR resilience solutions, I would like to define resilience with you together. According to the American Psychological Association, resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of trauma, tragedy, adversity, threats, or significant sources of stress. And we often visualize resilience with a spiral, symbolizing the ability to bounce back into the original mental state after overcoming challenges. And for me, a very good example is the dandelion, the Löwenzahn in German, because this plant grows under very rough conditions, circumstances, as you can see here on the picture. And other plants need a lot of care and attention, and I always ask myself or wonder how this plant can survive, as you see here. Resilience research started in the 50s with Amy Werner's longitudinal study. This study started in Kauai, a Hawaiian island, and spanned over 40 years and involved more than 700 children, and they wanted to investigate developmental difficulties and risk factors. And indeed, they found poverty, neglect, abuse, alcoholism, parental mental illness, and low educational levels. And what was interesting, despite of these risk factors, 1/3 of the people had a really positive development, so they developed totally normal. And then the study authors asked why. And they really found protective factors in the individual, in the family, and in the community. They found, for example, a positive temperament, high social competence, active coping strategies, or a close bond with at least one competent, emotional, stable person who listens to the children's needs. Or resilient persons tended to rely on the elders or other peers, asked for advice in crisis or for emotional support. And that was the beginning of resilience. Resilience was born there. And from that, or based on that, a lot of resilience models were developed or published. One very famous is the 7 Pillars Resilience Model from Ursula Nuber. And high resilience in these models is often characterized by a resilient mindset, strong social skills, proactive actions, for example, stepping out of the victim role or taking over responsibility, but also networking and having good social environment, good social contacts. And the new resilience, the modern resilience frameworks always include environmental factors and personal resources, which we can train and which we can improve by therapy or by other treatments. So why do we need resilience training in healthcare? As we all know, and especially those of us who work in a hospital, like me, for example, we know that healthcare is in an essential crisis. We see staff shortages. We have increased workloads in the nurses and other healthcare workers. They are under high pressure. The whole system is under pressure. And this is leading to psychological problems and also an increased rate of mental illness. This is not only due to genetics or female gender or personality traits, this is also to behavioral factors and lifestyle factors. For example, nurses often face sleep disruptions or low physical activity or coffee intake. It's also because of social factors, the work environment itself, or working patterns, shift work, and then on top also external factors as the pandemic and climate crisis and so on. So we all agree that new, innovative, and above all, well accepted and applicable solutions, which the healthcare workers actually use, are needed to improve mental well-being and resilience in those groups, or in this group, in this vulnerable group. And in the last years, we have developed a systematic approach, and we bring together different sciences. We do not only include healthcare, medical, and psychological science, but also human-computer interaction and new technologies, and social sciences, humanities, and economics. In the center of our project is extended reality. There is some empirical evidence at the moment using extended reality to increase resilience and mental health. We will hear something about that later. But there are not so many studies at the moment, and many studies are limited by, for example, lacking control groups or whatever. So research is urgently needed. And we all agree, or the literature agrees, that there are a lot of challenges from extended reality in mental health treatment. So, for example, we can provide immersive therapies, it's cost effectiveness, it's accessible, it's very flexible. However, there are also some challenges. And it's very important to address these barriers. For example, engagement. So how can patients or participants stay motivated in the XR technology or in the training? And also personalized therapy. How can we do personalized treatment with technology, and also the big issue of stigmatization in mental health treatment. So that are some things we need to address, but I believe we will discuss this later. But all in all, we believe, and also the literature agrees, that XR technology has a big, big potential. And now I would like to share a little bit with you my research, or our research, which is focusing on developing new XR solutions to enhance resilience, well-being in healthcare workers. And we have launched in the last 2 years 2 exciting projects. One is funded by the Arbeiterkammer Steiermark. It's the project XRES for Health. And the second one is a project funded by the European Commission called XR to Resilience. The first project, XRES for Health, is a pilot study. We conduct this study together with Mind Console, and it contains 3 parts. We have a requirement survey where we ask the healthcare workers or nurses in our department at the University Hospital in Graz, at the psychiatric unit, about acceptance of such digital solutions, about their needs, their interest in digital XR resilience trainings. Then we had, in the second part, a stakeholder workshop to develop the technical requirements for the training. And in the third part, that's ongoing at the moment, we have a pilot study where we evaluate our training modules with 40 nurses and test for effectiveness on acceptance and also mental well-being. I can show you some preliminary results from XRES for Health. In the requirement analysis, we asked the participants, would you be interested in trying out the extended reality training? And the majority, 83%, said yes. And they said they would train the resilience more than once, so they would train it in multiple sessions. And most, or the majority, said the training should not last longer than 20 minutes. The feedback from the stakeholder workshops helped us to improve our training models. And here I can show you, you can see the first screenshots of our training. On the left side, you see the avatars. Our participants can choose one of those 3 avatars, which is guiding the participant through the training. And by making this choice, we also train resilience. As we remember, self-efficacy is also one part of resilience. Then after that, they enter in one of the 3 portals here, and we have decided to train psychoeducation, so we give them knowledge, we give them information about resilience. The second portal is mindfulness, and the third portal is relaxation. Yeah, and that was the basis for the big major project, the EU project XR to Resilience. This is a project where 6 universities contribute. Also the FH St. Pölten, which we are very happy. Sitting here, some parts of the team, I don't see anything, so I'm speaking in the dark, so sorry for that, because the lights are so blinding. Then we have 2 partners from healthcare systems. We have 1 research organization and 2 SMEs. Our partners come from 5 different countries, and the project started in August, and the duration is 4 years. Our key objectives are to develop a pioneering XR-supported resilience training for healthcare workers. Then we want to ensure strong acceptance so that the healthcare workers really use the training, in best case during their work times. So we aim for integrating the training into current organizational settings and work practices. Here we also get input from stakeholders. Then we test for effectiveness in a randomized controlled trial on various levels. So we test effectiveness on individual level, on organizational level, and also on system level. And the fourth objective is to upscale our solution to bring it to other target groups within the European Union. Because not only nurses need resilience training, we believe also other groups would benefit from it. Here you can see the randomized controlled trial integrated in our project. I don't know if I have a laser. Here I have it. So we have two groups here. One group, the XR group, is getting the training, 6 sessions of resilience training. So our research question is, can 6 sessions of personalized XR resilience training be effective in improving perceived stress in healthcare workers? Perceived stress is our main outcome parameter. Then the first group receives the training. The other group is on a waiting list. That's because of ethical reasons, and also gets the training later. And then we have 2 follow-ups after 16 weeks and after 24 weeks. Also included in our project is a longitudinal study, because we do not really know at the moment which resilience factors are prominent or important in healthcare samples. So we want to identify trajectories of mental health in relation to stress exposure in those samples. And here the longitudinal study is displayed here at this slide. Yeah, this is a part of my XR team in Graz. Big shout out to them at this point. And I would like to close my talk with my vision, as I'm a clinical and health psychologist. My vision would be to integrate one day extended reality into my daily work when I work with patients or with vulnerable people. And by doing so, revolutionizing mental health treatment. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions. Now I step out of the light a little bit, but it's not possible here. I'm sorry, I did not see anything. Thank you.
That really helps stage fright, right? It's like speaking to a train, no? I mean, it's really nice.
It's fun.
Does anybody have any questions? The time is now. We still have a bit of time, that's why.
What's the theoretical background to this technical solution? So what methods...
Just a second.
The background or the base idea. Okay. So what's the theoretical background to the technical solution? Because you were talking about avatars you can choose, but usually there's a model behind or a method or any idea of treatment. And what's the idea that you packed into this technical solution?
As I'm a clinical and health psychologist and a mental health expert, I can tell you a lot about the resilience frameworks in behind. So that's our theoretical background on a psychological side. On the technical side, I don't know what you really want to hear. I think there are experts who could answer these questions better than me. Why we choose avatars, from my point, it was we wanted to improve self-efficacy. That was one thing. Our technical partner said avatars are typical in such resilience trainings or in such extended reality, serious games and whatever. So that was one point. And then I said, yeah, that's good for me, because if the person is guided by an avatar, he also trains empathy, because the avatar always says, please help me, can you help me to pick up my resources and something like this. So I only can tell you the background from my psychological background. What's the technical background? You have to ask my colleagues, some of them sitting here, and also the tech partners. But I guess it's serious gaming, or I don't know exactly what's the background. We're just using it, we bring it into the clinics. I'm working in a psychiatric department. At the moment we do it with, or we work with nurses, but my goal would be to bring it also to patients, to improve their mental health. And The background maybe we could discuss later, but I cannot exactly say what's the technical things. But maybe my colleague Eva Turk can answer that. I don't know. Also, you have a question. And maybe you can say something about that.
Super. I think we are running out of time.
Okay.
But I'm sure that Nina is going to be available for your questions during the breakout session. It's like I'm so used to breakout session. During the networking session, the break that we're going to have in between the talks. And one thing that thank you very much, Nina.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
I will be one of the first people who are going to ask you something afterwards.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Before we continue, I forgot to greet our YouTube viewers as well. So I'm not sure where to look, so I'm just going to make a 180 hello, 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 hello. And thank you for watching. So our next speaker, right now we have heard about how we can help our healthcare professionals with their mental health. And now we're going to see what it looks like from a patient perspective. So please welcome Anka Petre with Reinventing Patient Experience in the Metaverse. Welcome, Anka. Please give a round of applause for Anka.
Thank you. You hear the heart beating. Your palms are getting sweaty. You have trouble breathing. You don't feel very comfortable. That's not me coming on stage, by the way. It's actually 50% of the population when arriving into a medical setting. I think you've all experienced that feeling of unease when you have a doctor's appointment. What am I going to learn? What are they going to do to me? This is something that's very common, often because the setting you're in feels a little bit like that. A lot of unpleasant lighting, a lot of noises, and your doctor calling your name. But what if things could be different? I'm not saying beach different, but something like that. What I'm talking about is the patient experience in a medical setting. What if the patient experience could be a bit different? Even a minor improvement is already huge. And part of those improvements come from something called the metaverse. But before we dig into the metaverse, we have to scroll back a little bit because I need to give you a bit of context. The first thing we have to look at is the evolution of computing. Why do we even talk about metaverses today? And why do we talk about something called spatial computing and extended realities? It all comes from somewhere. Computing has been in our lives for quite a while now. And it all started with the personal computer. That's how the general audience got to know what computing is and interact with something called the web. You had your personal computer. And that was very big at the beginning, and then it became smaller and smaller and more portable and easier to use. And then you had the mobile era, an era where everything could fit into your pocket. All the computer power was just inches away. That evolved for a while into voice computing. How many of you here have the Google Homes or Alexas or things like that? Yeah, that was not a major success. Let's put it that way. How many of you here have mobiles? Just kidding. So we had that bit of voice computing that arrived. And now we're moving into something else. Something that some people expect to be the next interface to web services, the next computer, the next mobile. And that is spatial computing. And so what came with this revolution is that the way that we interacted with the web and with online content very much changed with years. First, when we had the personal computer, everything we had access to was on a read-only basis. We could access the information and read it. with the mobile, we started watching a lot of content. Now we spend hours scrolling on Instagram and TikToks to watch content and consume content. Of course, with voice assistants, we started hearing a lot of it and interact with the web through our voice. But what happens with spatial computing? If we started from reading, watching, hearing, what comes next? Does anyone know? Do you have a clue? Any idea? You start experiencing. And all of these things come together. You hear, you see, you feel. And that is the promise of spatial computing and extended realities. And now I think you start to understand what I'm going with this and with the patient experience talk. Spatial computing is a mix of different technologies. You have the software part of it, the hardware, you have the data, and all of that comes into place for something called the metaverse. It's the foundation of the metaverse. Now, I know that you've heard a lot about the metaverse ever since Mark Zuckerberg renamed Facebook Meta, but that is one vision of the metaverse. What I would like to present to you today is a different vision, a vision that's maybe more aligned what we have and what we need in healthcare. I'm a pharmacist by training, so I come from healthcare, and this is where I see the impact. First of all, as any scientist, I would start with a definition and context. What is a metaverse? First of all, we talk about the metaverse as a general concept, and a metaverse being one of the different metaverses that create a virtual world. So a metaverse is an online service offering access to shared, persistent, real-time environments. Shared, that means that you are not alone in these virtual spaces. Persistent means that if you log off, the world still exists. It's not like those games where you log off, the game stops, you log back in, and you take it from where you left it. Here, the world evolves. It lives like the real world, even if you're not there. Real time means that anything you do it in real time. There's no delay. And people can engage in immersive experiences. Now, I would like to clarify something, because there's sometimes a little bit of confusion, that metaverses can be accessed through extended reality, and you've seen a lot of people, and that is perhaps the meta vision of the metaverse, access it through VR headsets. But you can also access metaverses, so virtual worlds, through your desktop or mobile, on your computer directly, and I'll give you a couple of examples. So there are also different types of metaverses, and each of them have a different interest and a different value in healthcare. You have your gaming metaverses. How many of you here knew that Fortnite was a metaverse? One person. Three people, thank you. Those two are my business partners, so they do not count. How many of you knew of Fortnite? Let's start from there. Okay, so quite a lot of people. Fortnite is an online game. And these online games respond to the definition of a metaverse. So you have Fortnite, you have the Sandbox, you have Roblox. If you have younger kids, then maybe you've heard of Roblox. Those are the gaming metaverses. Then you have your enterprise metaverses. You've probably heard of them. You have Horizon Workrooms. You have Work Adventure, Spatial. Even if some of you use the Microsoft Teams platform, you have something called the Mesh that was implemented, which is also a virtual space where you can interact. Those are enterprise metaverses. And then you have your medical metaverses. So far, I only have 2 examples here, but there are a couple of more. This is not something that's globally spread yet. You have a lot of VR applications, but full metaverses, full digital worlds, those are still quite rare, but I will give you a couple of examples. So these different type of metaverses, they all come together to improve what we first started with, which is the patient journey and the patient experience of the healthcare system. And I would like to focus on 2 main things, prevention and care. The metaverse, when it comes to prevention, is very much focused at least that's the way we address it, towards gaming. And how do you use gaming metaverses to spread awareness or educate about medical situations? So you have Fortnite. These examples are not from healthcare, but just to give you a sense of what other companies are doing out there in metaverses like Fortnite. So you have the ketchup company who created a Fortnite experience to encourage users to discover the daily life on a tomato plant. So that was a whole adventure. You also have companies such as Samsung who created an experience to discover the latest TV. You also have platforms like Roblox. This is another game that young people like a lot. And you had concerts with American rappers who reached over 30 million people, which is huge. And brands such as Gucci or Givenchy who created their own experience in Roblox. Why am I showing you this? First of all, because there are no examples so far of healthcare companies developing this type of experiences. But I'm also talking about this because we are working on something very similar. We are working on an adventure in Fortnite where we could raise awareness and educate about an infectious disease. And we can take the setting of Fortnite, which is basically a combat game, and try to use that. Instead of fighting each other, maybe why not fight a healthcare disease or a virus or something along those lines? And use that gaming setup to push prevention messages and medical education messages. And why is this interesting for a healthcare company? Well, simply because where you would spend 30 seconds scrolling on TikTok and being exposed to a message, you would spend here over 30 or 40 minutes interacting with a medical message. And it's just a different way of experiencing healthcare and experiencing prevention. There's something very similar we're working on with diabetes, and this concept can be extended to all types of different diseases and therapeutic areas. Now, when it comes to care, things are a little bit different because we already have a lot of the building blocks already available. We already have VR-based medical devices. We already have virtual consultations. We have even virtual support groups, and I give you an example. We have a lot of 3D interactive content and all the use cases that you will hear about throughout the day. But the thing is, we don't have a place for all these things to come together. And this is what we're trying to work on, is bringing all these different building blocks together into a medical metaverse. This is something a company called IMEDIS is also working on. I'm an advisor for this company, just a full disclosure. And what they're creating is a virtual healthcare system where everyone, every company, every healthcare provider, every hospital can come in, create their virtual hospital building space, and deliver the virtual services. And one of the hospitals that did that is the University Hospital of Lausanne, who came into the IMEDIS metaverse and creating a replica of their actual hospital. And in that virtual hospital, they conducted the first cardiology consultations. Now, this is purely at a research and proof of concept stage. The idea is to run a study now to compare follow-up visits in cardiology in the metaverse versus telemedicine platforms or versus your current standard of care, which is just going to the hospital and having your follow-up visit. And the idea is to conduct a research and try to identify if the metaverse brings any type of value, and if so, what type of value does it bring to patient. But this is an area of research that is investigated right now. Another area of research that could dramatically impact patient experience is how do you, if you're afraid or scared of a medical exam, why not doing it in a virtual space before doing it in real life? And this is something that happens with cardiology patients. When they have to undergo radiotherapy, this can be very intimidating and very scary because you have, as you can see here, this big machine standing on top of you. So there's this company called Dassault Systèmes, which is a big company in France, who created a virtual twin of a radiotherapy session. And patients are immersed in this virtual environment. They undergo the virtual radiotherapy session, they see how everything works, and they are less scared, and this has been evaluated, when they go into their actual radiotherapy session. So this is really interesting when it comes to patient experience, improving that fear, that sentiment of unease, this contributes a lot to that. And when we talk also about the patient experience, it's also the patient experience outside of healthcare settings. And this is an interesting experiment. You have the first Narcotics Anonymous meeting that took place in the metaverse. That was during COVID, because it was very difficult for patients to meet, of course. So they created these virtual meetings. And the feedback from that was very positive. One of the things that was really highlighted is that because of patients being represented by their avatars, it was a lot easier for them to engage and discuss their problems than when they are in real life. Because they are covered by this virtual and digital identity, it is much easier to open up. So where are we headed? Something that we truly believe in is that spatial computing alone is not going to make a big impact in patient experience. What is going to make a big impact is spatial computing mixed with AI. Why? Because spatial computing brings this new interface, this new way of interacting with online services. It also brings the experience element, the feel, the touch, the smell, and so on. And also because, I don't know if you've seen that, but research shows that our brain is not capable of distinguishing between virtual reality, when it's well done, and actual reality. This is why it works so well. And then artificial intelligence is here to bring the source of information, bring the interaction, generate the content that would populate these virtual environments. And so what will this look like? Let's listen.
Welcome to 2095. Let me paint a picture of what it's like to be a patient in this era. Now, the experience is a blend of technology and personalized care transcending the limitations of traditional healthcare. Imagine walking into a medical consultation equipped with augmented reality glasses. As you put them on, a world of AI-generated, personalized information unfolds before your eyes. Before even meeting the doctor, you engage in a trial-run consultation with an AI-generated doctor. This digital replica of a medical professional talks you through what to expect, answers your preliminary questions, and eases the anxiety that often accompanies doctors' visits. Post-consultation, the experience doesn't just end there. You receive an AI-assisted debrief, a simplified yet comprehensive rundown of what was discussed. It's like having a medical translator turning complex jargon into understandable language. And when you get home, you have your own virtual medical space you can access anytime with information and content specifically tailored to your needs. In 2095, AI and extended reality work collaboratively to redefine the patient experience.
And there you have it, a vision of what a patient experience might look like in the future. So I started this conference saying that the future of patient experience is the metaverse. Allow me to rephrase that. We believe that the future of patient experience is a mix of spatial computing, artificial intelligence, and first and foremost, humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. You really touched my heart with something that you said about how we cannot recognize the difference between what we live in the metaverse and what we live in reality. Because actually this was one of the most powerful memories that I have, that I was dreaming about something that happened in the metaverse as a memory of something I did. And this is when I saw the power that we can actually use with a platform such as the metaverse. So thank you for building it for the well-being of all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And does anybody have a question for Franca? Question? Don't see it too much. Yes.
Thank you so much for your talk. I would have a question because maybe a provocative one, but because we really try to get adolescents, youth, and maybe even adults out of addiction towards social media and stuff like this. And the question is, why would we join the metaverse and try to lure them into the same a little bit? So do you see any kind of similarities or anything that we would do in order to learn from smartphone and social media addiction that we should not do in the metaverse?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. I think there are two different things that we have to distinguish. First is exposure to smartphones or VR glasses and so on, which has been very studied, and now we know what are some of the guidelines that we should follow in terms of time of exposure depending on the age and how to control that for the best. And I think that should apply to anything that I'm saying out here. But the reality is that within the frameworks of time that we are allowed and encouraged to use these digital devices, what we do with that time, we can take advantage of what is done with that time to, instead of spending, 20 minutes on a platform like Fortnite, killing my other counterparts on the platform, maybe push our kids to spend that time getting education on a topic and have a more virtuous approach to using those platforms. We're not going to be able to stop people from using them, but when they use them, might as well encourage them to use them in a more gracious and fulfilling way.
Well, thank you so much, Anka. Unfortunately, our time is done, but thank you so much. It was very enlightening. And please, applause. All right. So our next speaker actually told me something once. He said, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And I never associated really like this statement with technology, right? I mean, what does it mean that the eyes are the windows to the soul when it comes to hardware or when it comes to the experiences that we're creating? So I will let him tell you more about it, but please welcome Niels Berger, that is going to talk to us about next-gen XR interfaces for expert guidance. Welcome, Niels.
Thanks, Jeff. So, hi, folks. Thanks for the intro, and Anka, thanks for laying the ground for something I can pick up. Interestingly, that statement is absolutely true, and I try to give you some reasons why you should believe it, and some reason why it does make sense. Now, the title of the presentation is about XR interfaces. Let's not dive into abbreviation wars. Could be MR, could be spatial computing. I'm a huge fan of spatial computing. I don't really believe in the metaverse kind of thing. But shortly to us, we are an embedded company, which means everything we do, hardware design, engineering, software, happens in Vienna. We are roughly 60 people. We have 2 locations in Vienna. We are fully vertically integrated, and we have 2 business areas. One is where we are OEM. We manufacture our own products. We sell to the market rather successfully, luckily, after 8 years, deep tech, and 30 million euros of investment. So we are truly fighting some big names, and we don't have the means, but potentially we have the brains, which makes incredibly proud of the team, what they achieve in that sector, because that brings us to the second strategic business unit, which is B2B2X. That's where we provide our technology to other smart glasses OEMs. And the idea is, or our vision is, that we will provide the human-machine interface of the future. And we truly believe that interacting with visual content shouldn't be done via voice or pinching, swiping, or whatsoever. So it can be easily done via the eyes, both consciously and subconsciously. So that's a bit of context. I'm the founder and CEO, and I'm happy to guide you a bit through our ideas and vision. Now, this looks funny, but basically that's a test unit. At the same time, it's also possibly the hardest working bloke in our company. I think, because I hold a master in business administration, so I'm not a technical guy. It was once called Glubschi, googly eyes, but now the tech guys came up with Optimus. I don't really know. All the other projects we are having have Lord of the Rings names, so it's kind of a knack of our software guys and engineers, and I can relate for sure. So, coming back to why the eye. When we talk about the eye, then we talk about sensory perception. And if you have to rate and prioritize our different senses, then clearly the eyes come up on top, because roughly 80% of all sensory perception is provided by the eye. So this is, without any single doubt, our most dominant sense. But the eyes are not only picking up information. Every human being goes through the same loop. Whenever you wake up, you open your eyes. It's seeing, it's a ballistic movement of the eyes. It's perceiving. That's like, that seems to be interesting. Thirdly, identifying, that's the cognitive part of what is it. And then fourth step, to decide what to do with the information. So we go through that, I don't know how many times a day. It's constantly on. Either we are catatonic or dead, then definitely that's not happening anymore. And the beauty of the eyes, it's the universal language. You don't have to cover 8,000 dialects in China alone. The buildup of the eye is all over the planet the same. So it gives you access with one core technology to many different human beings. And you can always apply the same logic behind. And that's one of the reasons we are here today. What can be done? Because giving away, yes, emotional state and so forth, but also there are some pretty cool ideas how to use the eyes for diagnostics. Because you basically can detect psychophysical conditions, and there is also a fair chance that you can detect illnesses. And that's one of the paths we are going down using our technology. So this is my favorite slide because it's very clear, simple, structured, and it basically violates everything you learn when doing a presentation. I didn't do it, it was marketing. So, no, just kidding. So you have biomarkers, and they are there, but you need to unlock them. And a lot of that is revealed by our eyes. So blinks, if I talk about blinks, did you know that when your eyelid starts moving, your brain is basically shut down towards visual input, which means the reason why we have accidents late at night where we are staying focused behind the steering wheel and we open our eyes, then suddenly a very important physiological reaction kicks in. The eye dries out, and that's not supposed to happen. That's dangerous. That could damage the eye long term. So we have to put humidity on it, and that's done by blinking, which means the more I blink, the longer I'm blind. And I just had a speech this week as well at a Special Forces Operators Summit in Germany, where all the Special Forces, the German-speaking Special Forces, united. And it was about training and using the eyes, and exactly the same. It's applicable in that area as well as driving cars. So training people how to use the eyes by, as an example, say, use eye blinking without having the stress, and then when the adrenaline kicks in and you open up your eyes, you might get blind in the wrongest of all moments. So you can take away direct learnings and changes in your behavior or train your muscle memory. But also it goes way deeper, and that's the white part, situational, rational feedbacks, emotional stuff, what's happening while seeing something. But also, going even there, what are pathologies? So what can you find out if you have an idea of which biomarkers you can analyze? Now, what now happens, and that's also something that really helps us tremendously, AI. I still call it machine learning, call me old school. But it's about number crunching, it's about getting data done within seconds, where otherwise you would take hours. So now if you bring in redundancies, I plus GSR plus cognitive load plus whatsoever, then you get a lot of information, you get redundancy, and you get a better idea to understand what's truly happening. You might even get into a sector of predictability. That's a long shot or even a moonshot, but we do believe there is a certain probability that we will come to a confidence level to predict certain things. And that basically is then multi-sensor fusion, which is supported by AI. So The end game is that we come to a lab grade kind of thing. So it's not an indication, it's not it could be, it's something that really is a reliable set of data, and that can be integrated into wearables, which means you wear it on you. There's also a fact that more than 50% of the global population is wearing glasses, and that share is growing each and every day. So that is a very natural extension to smart glasses when you master the technology of eye tracking or perception tracking. So what could be future scenarios? We do have an issue with how to bring the right people to those who need care, the elderlies. So basically have them wearing glasses that have a further purpose than just reading glasses. Then that would mean that in real time the glasses can track the condition of the wearer. In the background, machine learning determines are all the parameters okay, or is something now going into the wrong direction, which could lead to either automatically call someone to provide then the help needed, or to be able to anticipate something that is going to happen in the future. Just one possible scenario. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It could happen. This is something we're actually working on. To say first responders are supported by smart glasses. Whenever they encounter something where the first responder is just not capable of dealing with it, he gets backup from the experts. But at the same time, you create a digital folder, a digital manila of that person, and that goes with him throughout the whole process. That could then be to go into the helicopter, from the helicopter to the ER, into the theater, into the surgery, and basically you're accompanied with all your data that are provided by the glasses and are interchanged between the different doctors, the different people involved, that then provide the medical care. That's basically something we do with the Schwarzwald-Berg-Klinikum. This is a lighthouse project in Germany. They're supposed to be the digital hospital, so they're trying to get rid of all the paper-based work, and that's something where we're already involved. So this is a scenario that I'm pretty sure is going to unfold in the near future. But then, what about those who can't tell you what they are suffering from, who can't describe, it's my right foot, it's my left ankle, it's my shoulder? That could be an infant, that could be a child, that could be someone who can't speak, or other disabilities. So also there you find a tool that would allow you to get the right diagnostic feedback without making too many interpretations, because what I've learned, making too many interpretations in the healthcare sector is not the way you should go. So you try to be as precise, as accurate in diagnostics as you can be. That could help those people that are dealing with these kind of patients, and it could be a tremendous help in better treatments for them. Now, as Gab said, the mirror of your soul. So you get a lot, no, basically, not a lot, you get pristine, pure emotion from the eyes, because you cannot manipulate. So the feedback from the eyes is nothing a human being can interfere. You know, with breathing, I get my pulse rate down, or I do special yoga techniques to get my mimics under control, but the eye gives it away. These little bodily telltales are something you're not able to interfere with, which means you get access to truly interesting stuff, which makes it super interesting for those folks in the so-called metaverse, because basically when you enter it, they would understand what you're interested in, you're looking at in real time. So does anyone want to unveil this kind of information? I'm not so sure. If we then add a medical aspect to it, then it's even more crucial that we make sure that this data is somehow fenced, ring-fenced, and is not openly available. That's not us taking these decisions. Currently, we have a very conservative approach, but at the same time, we have to open up, because if we don't do it, someone else will do it. So it's a pretty simple way forward here. But still, this is going to be one of the biggest challenges: what happens to that data and what is post-processed with that data. And also, when you're a patient, you would like to know what happens with that data, because that's far more than if someone is writing down what they saw in you. So this is definitely something where we need to find a good balance between rushing ahead and move fast and break things, and at the same time be aware that we open up troughs of data that no one of us really has an idea what this could lead to. So this is not only our business. We are at the epicenter of smart glasses, at the epicenter of, those big names. We are talking to them. These are sometimes very, very difficult discussions, because, when you're located in the Silicon Valley, GDPR is what? So I don't know if we as Europe are prepared what is needed. I doubt it. Still, I believe personally, as I said, there needs some fences, some parameters that define barriers. But I have a very pragmatic view. I hope that human beings are going to say stop somewhere in the future, because it's our data, so it will be up to you and everyone. And Peter Drucker once said it: there ain't such things as a free lunch. So whenever you believe, Insta is for free or whatever is for free, ain't for free, they sell your data. This is probably your most valuable data. So if you're going into smart glasses 2027, I expect the real consumer-grade hard glasses. Just be aware that if you give the data away, charge something for it. Because I need it for my living, right? So I'm basically done. This is a project from the reality with St. Pölten to understand who is doing what with eyes. So we are working on it. This is not an ivory castle or ivory tower. This is something that is happening true, and this is our technology at work. Cool, that's it. I saw you already sneaking around there.
I didn't want to interrupt these glorious last words, so I was like...
Yeah, they're inglorious last words.
Yeah, inglorious. No, I'm not going to look at you in the eyes, you know too much about me now.
Yeah, this is the latest concept I'm wearing.
Yeah, exactly. But something very interesting, and I think a lot of potential in its use with what you mentioned, is a non-verbal communication, right? Because sometimes we know how we feel, but sometimes we rely on a healthcare professional asking the right questions to trigger the right answers from us, right? But if we can read the eyes of our patients, and then this way we can actually improve their health, I would say this is quite a win for humanity, right?
If used properly and the correct way.
If used properly, of course. So does anybody have a question for Niels? Yeah.
So, hello, thank you for the talk. It was very interesting. I just have a question regarding acceptance. So, do you have any data of especially elder people and young children? What is the acceptance of wearing these glasses? And is there also a possibility, for example, in case of young children? I mean, I'm a mother of 2 children, and sometimes it's really hard to put even gloves or a hood on them. So I think glasses would also be maybe a problem. Is there a possibility, for example, that I wear these glasses and just having this kind of data from the person in opposite of mine?
This is going to happen, yeah. So that will take a bit of time. So starting with the last question, integration in, how should I say, socially acceptable shapes. That's the most important thing. We see the first true push into that area with the Ray-Ban stories, which is a huge success, by the way. So they are selling hundreds and hundreds of thousands each quarter, which no one probably is aware of. So there we already see that this whole thing, and it looks like a Ray-Ban Wayfarer. So that's something everyone possibly would wear because he doesn't look like a freaking alien with something on his nose. So the social acceptability is something. Secondly, what do I get from it? I mean, you know, we are using smartphones, but it's ergonomically a disaster. The interface is a disaster. Battery runtime is, but anyhow, every one of us is running around with this. So I think we will get rid of smartphones, and we will get into the age of smart glasses. And then no one would have believed that everyone has a smartphone. So same thing like Anka said, the next logical step is wearing it off our nose. More than 50% of the people are wearing already glasses, and for the others it's going to be like a phone. You're wearing it like this, it starts to vibrate, you take it out, and then you say, oh, mom's calling, I blink, no thanks, go to voicemail.
Super.
Worse, even mother-in-law is calling. Block. Oh, the father-in-law, I don't want to be.
This is super interesting news. We always have such a nice conversation, so I can't wait to have like part 2 of our conversation.
It's going to happen, guys.
During the break. And thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to Niels.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you so much. All right. So far we have seen how XR is training our healthcare providers. We have also seen how the metaverse can help us make a more pleasant experience and also learning experience for our patients. And we also explore how our eyes can say so much about us and how we can improve our health as a consequence. But we're still building the future of healthcare. So what does the future look like? So this is a perfect opportunity to actually have a peek inside the minds of the people building this future of healthcare. So right now we're going to see some student pitches about many different, very interesting topics, by the way. And we start with RodQuest of Theodora, Ahmed. Are they here? Yes. Let's welcome them on stage.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. So hello, everyone. We're excited to present RodQuest. Meet Sharife, a dedicated radiography student that spends countless hours studying and learning textbooks and lecture notes. Yet, despite her efforts, she finds herself frustrated and overwhelmed with all the things that she needs to learn. And she's starting also to doubt her abilities. Many students struggle to understand complex topics, especially as complex as radiography. But what if learning could be simpler, more engaging and fun? Introducing RodQuest, a mobile learning game designed specially for radiography students. RodQuest is built on 3 core principles. Easy mobile learning. Our app, or our game, is helping students study and access educational content anywhere and anytime. Whether they are commuting on the way to work or relaxing at home, they can access educational content at their convenience. Gamified engagement. We believe learning can be fun. RodQuest transforms studying into interactive experience throughout diverse quests that boost motivation and engagement. Boosted retention. Studies show that implementing game elements can significantly improve the way students comprehend and understand complex topics.
Okay, now let's take a look at RodQuest in action. In our game, the players have to wander around and interact with various characters. There are 2 types of quests: collecting items and answering quiz questions related to radiography. The players have to go around and look for the doctor and do the quest, or answer quiz questions. And upon entering a specific area, such as a room with an MRI machine, the players are prompted with quiz questions related to MRI, for example. The players have to answer several questions and choose the correct answer from multiple options. To successfully receive the badge for this section, the player has to answer 7 questions. Another example of a specific quest in a game is, for example, finding the right contrast agent for the examination. The players have to go around and look for the right contrast agent and bring back to the doctor for the examination. To successfully receive a badge for this section, the player has to bring the right contrast agent for the right examination. After finishing all of the quests and answering all of the questions, you can receive a special item by opening a treasure chest. In the first version of the game, the included modalities are the computer tomography, the magnetic resonance imaging, the ultrasound scan, and the X-ray examination. We use the required materials from the bachelor program of radiological technology from the Fachhochschule Campus Wien. This bachelor's program is conducted in German, and to align with the language and instruction and meet the stakes of our primary stakeholders, the students of radiological technology, our game is also designed in German.
Our team is, we have radiography experts and we have game developers, and we all worked really hard to make a game that is both educational and entertaining. We think that RodQuest can transform the way students learn and understand this amazing topic as radiography is. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you. I know my daughter is going to be such a fan of your project. Okay, so our next project is done by Katharina Weiser and Andreas Steinbacher. It's called, I hope I pronounce it well. If not, please forgive me and tell me how it actually goes. Is ELLMOH. Elmo. Elmo. Bing, the light bulb moment. Sometimes for me, it takes a while for the information to land, but once it lands, it stays forever. So are we ready? Yes. Please give a round of applause for the next project, Elmo.
Long waiting times, exhausted staff, and unsatisfied patients. The situation of the healthcare system is dire and faces an increasing burden on resources and an impending loss of treatment quality. Compulsory documentation, language barrier, and staff shortages contribute to a stressful environment for both patients and healthcare personnel. But good news, everyone. There's hope with Elmo.
Elmo is our innovative AI assistant designed to reduce the burden on healthcare professionals and improve patients' experience and satisfaction. Elmo introduces large language models into the organization of hospitals.
So what exactly is Elmo now? Elmo offers an intuitive patient interface for self-service registration in hospital ambulances, reduces staff workload, and improving patient satisfaction. The LLM-based web application allows communication via chat assistant, guiding patients through the onboarding process. This enables patients to have a more natural conversation, as Elmo allows natural voice input. The second part of Elmo consists of a nurse dashboard, providing an overview of administered patients and their respective waiting times. Elmo integrates seamlessly into hospital workflows and provides a valuable tool for efficient patient management.
So let's talk about the benefits. With Elmo, we can reduce the waiting times in hospital departments implementing our intelligent assistant. We enhance the inclusion of patients with disabilities and/or language barriers by Elmo's advanced language and communication capabilities. We reduce the staff by relieving and automating the admission process, and we optimize the distribution of valuable resources by increasing efficiency. However, we know that words alone are not enough. We are proud to show you a practical example of Elmo's capabilities.
To demonstrate Elmo's capabilities in real time, let's walk through a simulated patient admission process. I will take on the role of the patient interacting with the Elmo system, and you will hear how Elmo guides me through the admission process. First, I have to select the language. Next, Elmo will ask its first question.
Hello, I'm Elmo. Please tell me your name.
Now I have the possibility to answer in natural language. I first have to press the microphone button. Hi, I'm John Doe. Now Elmo recognizes exactly what I said, and in the next step it will extract the relevant information, in this case the name.
John Doe. Please tell me your date of birth.
I'm born on January 1st, 1990.
January 1st, 1990. Please tell me the first 4 digits of your insurance number.
My insurance number is 6374.
6374. Please tell me your main symptoms.
I have a headache and severe pain.
Headache, severe pain. Thank you for providing your information. If everything is correct, please press the Confirm and Send button to send your data.
Now I have the possibility to correct the data if something is misinterpreted. Otherwise, I will just press the Confirm and Send button, and then the data will be transmitted to the database and afterwards can be seen on the nurse dashboard.
Your data was successfully transmitted. Please take a seat in the waiting area. You will be called shortly. Thanks for using Elmo.
Elmo is a continuously learning and evolving system. We are dedicated to expanding its capabilities to further support healthcare professionals. For more information or further questions, please visit us at our booth and let Elmo be your partner in transforming healthcare. See you soon.
Thank you very much for this great presentation. Like, you're talking to a Star Trek fan, you know? I mean, if I can go to an emergency room and talk like Star Trek style, like, hey, computer, I'm feeling this way. It's like, what's troubling, Gabs? It's like, this is my dream. You're building my dream. All right, so our next project is TeranNote from Dario Moratti and Lucas Oppenauer. So let's welcome them on stage. You ready? Ready? Yeah? Super.
It's really bright. Good afternoon, everyone. We're quite excited to introduce to you TeranNote, our solution to streamline documentation for physiotherapists. But first, a quick question for you, and just take a moment and think about it. How many of you can remember what you had for lunch yesterday? And how about a month ago?
If it is hard for us to remember what we had for lunch yesterday, how can we expect our patients to remember what they did in the last physiotherapy session weeks or months ago? This is a big problem. And now imagine you're switching your physiotherapist, then this problem gets even worse.
So picture this. As a physiotherapist in Austria, you are legally required to document your work. But guess what? There is no standardized system for this. And there is no access to ELGA Austria's largest electronic health record. That means physiotherapists face a fragmented system with patient data scattered across various formats, making collaboration difficult and leading to inefficiencies that can affect patient care.
So, here's the issue. The lack of access of patient data leads to inefficiency and potential gaps in healthcare. But this is where TeranNote comes into play. Our vision is to seamlessly integrate physiotherapy documentation into ELGA.
So, TeranNote is designed to simplify workflows, ensuring consistent documentation and making patient information easily available. Like that, we hope to pave the way for a smooth transition from traditional to modern digital documentation.
Now, let's see how TeranNote works. For example, physiotherapist A documents his or her work and uploads it to ELGA. Then you switch your physiotherapist, but instead of starting from scratch, physiotherapist B can access this data in real time, continue the work, and therefore improving patient care. Now to the advantages of our system. We get a real-time data transfer from and to ELGA. We can seamlessly integrate all the documentation. We have time efficiency, so we are saving time. We can continue the work rather than starting from scratch. And ultimately, we improve patient care.
But what if we were to roll out this solution for the entire healthcare system? With our ELGA-conform export, we integrate physiotherapy documentation within the broader healthcare ecosystem, ensuring accessibility and the continuity of treatments. Like that, we meet all legal documentation standards, and like Lucas just said, we will improve the quality of patient care. By using an AGL7 CDA scheme, we guarantee a structure and a consistent documentation with room for flexibility within this documentation. And that leads and fosters the interoperability with other healthcare providers and makes not only patients happy, but also the physiotherapists.
Now we would like to invite you to visit us at our booth and ask all the questions that may arise during this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was fast.
Thank you very much, guys. As a neurodivergent that doesn't remember what she had for breakfast,
there you go.
I'm very grateful for this initiative. So thank you very much. All the best with the project. And yes, let's welcome the last but not least project, MS Aid, from Anna. I'm sorry, Anna, that I don't know how to pronounce umlauts very well, but I will try my best. So it's Anna Götzschel and Rebecca Mittermeier. Please welcome them on stage. Ready?
No problem. No problem. Very. This thing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our presentation about MS Aid, the navigator to simplify your multiple sclerosis journey. My name is Anna Götzschel, and this is my colleague, Rebecca Mittermeier. We are delighted to see you all here today, and now I will hand over to Rebecca, who will present our project to you.
Thank you, Anna. Let's start right away. Imaging struggling through a variety of symptoms, like visual disturbances, sensorio-motoric issues, sexual dysfunction, cognitive restrictions, or low energy due to fatigue, insomnia, or depression. Only one of them can impact the quality of everyday life. Now imaging, experiencing all of these symptoms at the same time. For many people, this is the reality as they live with the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. MS is an inflammatory chronic autoimmune disease. Approximately 13,500 people and many are living with this diagnosis, and many more, including their relatives, have to face an enormous impact on their daily lives. The way MS progresses is strongly influenced by lifestyle factors. This means living with this diagnosis requires a considerable amount of knowledge, awareness, and self-management from the individual. Research has proven that it's the disease with the most available digital helping tools. In a jungle full of new information, it can be overwhelming to navigate through them all.
And this is exactly where MS8 steps in.
MS8 is an easy-guided web application with two main paths. The platform offers an app directory and a specialist finder path. Both are equipped with various filter options, whether for self-help, mental health, or finding a local physiotherapist. Let's have a closer look. The app directory shows a list of digital helping tools. After setting a filter with the most interested topics, for example, self-management, users get personalized app suggestions. And each recommended app links directly into the download page, ensuring users can easily discover and utilize helpful tools. On the other hand, the specialist finder shows a regional navigation, including an interactive map. By navigating the interactive map, users can find they needed specialists in the local area and have access to their direct homepage links to get in contact with them easily. Now let's see how it works.
In summary, MS8 was created to promote empowerment, autonomy, and self-management to improve the overall well-being of people affected by MS. So let's start the journey together. Feel free to check out our QR code and ask open questions at our booth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope it's okay that I go South American on you on this, but I have to tell a personal story. My uncle suffered from MS for 28 years, so I really understand the issues that you're referring to. So thank you very much for this project, and I really hope that this project also brings compassion towards patients that are suffering with this condition. And I just had to say that, you know, it's very personal, but really, I wish you all the best. So for all of you, So right now, we're going to have a 30-minute networking break, but be sure to come back afterwards because we're going to have very interesting talks, 3 very interesting talks. One of them is actually George Papagiannakis. I hope I said the last name fine. And he's going to visit us from Stanford University. And he has a very interesting talk prepared for us. So don't go far. And also, we're going to hear from Julia Ken and Frank Charnov. I'm not going to say everything because you read the program. So please, let's network. And of course, visit the booths of these wonderful projects as well. Ask all your questions. And maybe you find an opportunity to collaborate in one of these projects. So yeah, so 30 minutes. I will remind you of these 30 minutes. And we see each other soon. Yeah. Hello? Hello again, everybody. I hope you had enough conversations, food, drinks, everything, and that you still want to hear me talk. Let's grab a seat soon. We're almost there. I don't know how to sing, otherwise I would sing for you, but you know, I don't even sing in the shower because I embarrass myself, you know? All right. Are we ready? The train is talking to me. All right. Time for our part 2. So now we have a very special guest that is joining us remotely from Stanford University. It's actually very early for him, so I hope he could have at least one coffee before talking with us. So I would like to welcome, is he ready? Yes? Okay. So, hey, there he is. Well, I see you here, hello, but I have to look there. I don't know, but I'm looking. Yeah, there, I see myself. I didn't see this. All right, so let's welcome George Papagiannakis. And it's a pleasure to meet you. And let's welcome George, that is going to speak to us about generative AI in medical XR. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello, everyone. It's really a great pleasure to be with you. I wish I was there physically. Thank you so much for the kind invitation. Thank you, Brian, Vanessa, and the rest of the committee. I'm George Papagiannakis. I'm co-founder and CEO of Orama VR, but my academic credentials is I'm a full professor of computer graphics at the University of Crete and visiting professor at the University of Geneva and Stanford. Today, in this short talk, I hope you are all energized after the coffee break. I will just give you a few key latest updates on how we can use generative AI on medical extended reality applications. So concretely, you will be seeing a lot of images like this one. This is generated using generative AI, and you will be seeing the prompts at the bottom. So in this very short journey today, I will be talking about 3 things. How essentially AI and extended reality are coming together, and they are forming a new field that we are calling it computational medical XR, and focusing on solving specifically 5 key problems on medicine: training, planning, navigation, rehabilitation, and therapy. Medical XR is a very big field and is currently getting a lot of traction and attention, and I will show you also some of the definitions. Computational medical XR is specifically focusing on these 5 topics. So I will present a bit of the state of the art in these subtopics, and then I will show you also our approach. How do we tackle this issue? Just a very brief disclaimer on my background. I'm not a medical professional or physician. I'm a computer scientist working for the last 25 years, from computer graphic systems to virtual human simulation algorithms, started from the University of Geneva, which is my alma mater, then tenured at the University of Crete in Greece and Forth, and the last years focusing a lot on geometric computational models and computational medical XR with Orama VR. If we realize a little bit what's the purpose of all of these technologies, in the end of the day, we want to give and to instill some kind of superpowers to our real selves. So use technology to augment ourselves and have better results in the end. And many think that despite the Marvel or Star Wars approach that we have seen in cinematography, that these are recent ideas and recent achievements. If you just see a little bit here, this short text, it just describes an architect working together with an AI agent in order to build a complete three-dimensional new mansion. And actually, this is not a very new idea. It was done more than 60 years ago by Douglas Engelbart here at SRI. Then it was called the Stanford Research Institute. And the idea of this report, in a theoretical basis, is how can we augment the human intellect using a conceptual framework of information sciences coming together with our real goals. And then he went on to create what is called the mother of all demos. He demonstrated the first applications of this theoretical demo, which was the first time we have seen the mouse, video conferencing, collaborative networked applications working at the same time in the same document. And this was done 60 years ago. So this is all to say that these ideas are not new, although the goal remains still quite focused as we are moving on. Also, the recent approaches and advances in AI, people think that this is something happened after 2022 with GPT, etc. But actually, the first neural networks were based on a seminal paper by McCulloch. This was 80 years ago. And the very concept of the neuron, as it is depicted today in neural networks by Rosenblatt in 1957. Again, just to say this, that these technologies are not new. They have been going through very many iterations to have the results we see today. And you see here some of the graphs from the original paper of Rosenblatt 80 years ago, the first neural networks. The same thing, of course, happens with extended reality and virtual reality. The Sketchpads demo on the left, which was the PhD of Ivan Sutherland, and then the first in the bibliography ever demo as well as paper, in 1968, a head-mounted three-dimensional display. So you see it on the right, it was a mechanical, at that time, head-mounted display, and you could see the results in wireframe mode. We didn't have rasterization monitors back then. We didn't have pixels, so we had the ways to draw using vectors and lines. And a little bit something more recently, our approach about 20 years ago, we were the first in bibliography to use VR for cardiac resuscitation in medical training in a collaborative environment where the trainees will be immersed and provide first aid guidance in order to learn and to be immersed in this type of situations. And on the bottom right, you even see a scenario editor. We could create new types of scenarios without even typing one line of code. Continuing in the more recent bibliography, this is a very inspiring book by Eric Topol, Deep Medicine, and he's focusing on the three aspects of how he believes AI will transform forever healthcare. His three principal components, you see it a bit on the right. He goes from starting from going all the way down to all the different types of biological simulation. So he calls it deep phenotyping. So all these different layers, imaging is just one layer. Our genome and etc. All of these and epigenome are all different types of layers of information that we can just input on a neural network in order to get all these insights by having all this vast big data. And what he calls it in the end, the result of this is not just the superpower on the medical professional, but also allowing better connection and better empathy with the patients, because in the end of the day, the physician will have more time. So instead of spending time on differential diagnosis of 200 different sources and trying to decipher radiology images, this can be done by the AI agent so that the professional will have actually more time to do health care. Coming again just 1 year ago, this is a very interesting state-of-the-art paper published by Global Surgical Education, the Journal of Surgical Education, the current status of VR simulation education on the orthopedic field. So they reviewed a large number of papers, more than 1,000 papers. And at the end of the day, what they said is that we need to change our focus. Till 2023, people were just excited to do a clinical trial to verify that there is skills transfer from the virtual to the real, case studies. So they said, stop doing that. We know it works. We know there is skills transfer from the virtual operating room to the real one. Start focusing on how can we establish curriculums. So large number of medical VR training simulations, and how can we embed them with the formal training and the formal processing. So quite interesting approaches. So I promised to you that my first part of the talk is how to AI and XR are coming together, forming this new field that we call CMXR, Computational Medical XR. So this was started, we published this at SIGGRAPH last year. This year we had also a presentation at Computer Graphics International, and Vanessa Leung was also there. And we are continuing at SIGGRAPH Asia in December in Japan. So at the bottom, you see the three different types of digital twins. So at the first, we have a generic 3D model of a generic 3D patient that has all the different anatomical, physiological systems. With orange in the middle, you see a patient-specific 3D digital twin. So it means the specific pathology and the specific anatomy of a certain patient represented in full 3D. And finally, on the right, we have the medical record having all the therapies of the patient. So then what is the trip of these 5 big areas that CMXR wants to solve? We start from the training. If we use a generic 3D anatomical model, physicians, surgeons, nurses can actually practice any medical operation, even if it is surgical or if it is diagnostic or therapeutic, before trying it on a real patient. So the mantra here is never first time with the patient. As we move along this continuum, you see that the next phase is using the previous technology, but substituting the generic 3D model with a patient-specific. Then this allows even experienced physicians, surgeons, and nurses to actually plan the intervention they want to perform tomorrow on me, on you, based on the specific patient data. If this same technology is used during a medical operation, during, for example, the operating room with AR glasses, they can use it as a navigation device. They can see behind the different anatomical layers. Then we have the actual surgical, therapeutic, or diagnostic operation, and then we move to rehabilitation and therapy using the patient-specific medical record. So these 5 areas, this is the focus of computational medical XR, bringing together deep learning and extended reality technologies. This is part, of course, of the larger medical XR field. And there is now a specific journal about it. And then you see here, medical XR is actually everything. Any intersection of immersive technologies with healthcare. And you see here the hundreds of different types of intersections, from medical imaging to harm reduction to pain reduction, as well as on surgical and non-surgical specialties. So the larger field is the medical XR. The CMXR is specifically the 5 topics we discussed. So having established that, now where does generative AI come to and how does it work? So we have seen the vast proliferation of these models. So what is it, Gen AI? So it's basically a system that allows us, in the end of the day, to generate new creative type of content. This can be text, images, videos, music, 3D models, 3D animations. If we like what is the output of this, we call it creativity. If we don't like it, we call it hallucinations. We say that the system hallucinates and produces non-accurate results. But how does it work really? So this is based on what is called foundational models or foundation models. So these are very large AI models that have been actually trained on vast amount of data. For example, GPT has been trained in all the Wikipedia pages, all the source code on GitHub. and in vast number of published books and articles. And then, having been trained in all this data, it actually can compress them and represent something that is called the latent space. It's an internal representation of all this vast number of data. Having compressed them, it's able to travel along this data and interpolate, produce intermediate values. It knows a lot of values on this data. The ones that it doesn't know, it can decipher based on this interpolation, this trip along this line. And of course, you have seen all of this already, and most of you have already tried them, from text to text, image, video, music, or even latest 3D objects. There is a lot of criticism on this type of foundational models or large language models. Something very interesting, and many people believe that these are just statistical machines, that they just output the next data, the next compressed, interpolated value as a statistical machine. Something else now is coming into play, which is called the world model. And this is crucial of how we can use these systems when we interact in XR. The world model is something that actually, on the context of LLMs, it means that if we can train a model with a large number of data, then this model, we have some evidence, we're not sure yet, but we have some evidence that the system is able to start understanding all the different conditions that generated this data. And for example, in this paper by Pfister and Lee, they just gave a large number of movements of the Othello game. The Othello game is like you have this white and black pieces, and then if you surround a piece with a black dot, then everything becomes black, etc. They just gave all this data, and then the system understood all the rules without ever having to explain them. So this creates this world model. It can be just from rules, it can be knowledge, facts, beliefs, viewpoints that the system is learning based on the data that has been trained. And this is something extremely powerful. So how do we see today, using generative AI in medicine? We are sure that this is going to revolutionize the space. And we see a lot of different models, mainly on the diagnostic and the therapeutic parts. So for example, we have GLASS, which is a system that is used by clinicians to create differential diagnosis and clinical plan outputs. Of course, on imaging, on visual drug simulation, disease modeling, we see a lot of papers in this area. Something really prolific happened with the MedPalm large language model by Google. It's a huge foundational model that it has really providing, it's not published yet, but the paper that shows the results provides some amazing results on differential diagnosis. So also the very large companies are interested in entering in this field. So how do all these connect to medical XR training? One very important insight to remember is what John Lanier mentioned in one of his latest articles, is that these virtual experiences have been very hard to build and maintain. And this is one of the biggest problems in VR. For example, today you need a subject matter expert, a medical professional with a large team of developers, designers, big budgets, and a lot of time to generate these simulations. What we are working now on, and many others in the field, is low-code software development kits, so that we can just use one developer with AI, with a subject matter expert to generate these simulations. Our dream is to go to a complete Gen AI solution so that the medical professionals themselves, like a PowerPoint, can generate these complicated medical XR simulations. We see a lot of interesting papers now coming out. This is from Bashir et al., 2023, about all the different state-of-the-art computational medical XR applications, from patient monitoring, surgery, the medical metaverse or medverse. On the industrial sector, we see more than 100 medical VR training companies now in this field today. The top 3 leaders, this is the latest report from Frost and Sullivan, is Fundamental VR, Also VR, and us, or Rama VR. If we just attempt to create a very brief timeline of how these companies and applications came into place, the version 1 of what we called, and the bibliography calls, VR training simulators, they were actually haptic-based 3D devices, like from Surgical Sciences, from Virtamed that you see on the top. The version 2 is actually 360 VR, so videos or mobile 3D, and both of these are not truly VR per se applications. That's why they are called simulators in the bibliography. The first true VR simulators or simulations you see here from Also VR is what they feature what we called API, agency, presence, immersion, and embodiment. And sometimes they can also use all the self-haptics, like you see here from Fundamental VR. So these are the first version, iteration 3, true VR simulators. In version 4, you see now we are in this idea of having low-code or no-code SDKs. So you still need one developer to generate, based on these software development kits, any type of simulation. The future is that we won't need also a developer. Directly the medical professional will be able to generate these. So how can we go from the low, no code where we are today to Gen AI? So to something that is called the ChatGPT for 3D asset scenes, or the ChatGPT for computational medical XR training applications. So this is a project that we are currently working on. This is a national project by InnoSwiss, by the Swiss government. It's called OMNI, the Open Medical Neural Metaverse. We are starting releasing the alpha version of it this December. We are welcoming early adopters. So the idea is that we have a next version of our software development kit, Mage is Next, that is used to generate a lot of complete medical XR training dataset applications. We want to reach 100. We have 66 today. Based on these two, we are currently actually now training our text to XR training model. So this is comprised in two parts: is text to 3D object and scene, and text to training signal. So you just type your prompt, half a paragraph, 1 page, describing all the steps of your medical operation. And then automatically the system generates the 3D assets, all the interactions. And for the fine psychomotor skills, dexterous use of hands, you teach the system in XR. So you are in XR and the system records your fine motor movements using your hands. So the idea is to have a complete medical XR application in a few hours developed by you. Some of the early results that you see over here. So on the left, we are able to generate today scenes
gateway to seamless 3D scene editing
based on textual prompts. So you see some medical scenes
revolutionizes object
on medical prompts. For example, you see the operating room on the left, and we can ask the system move, for example, the orange bottle on top of the tools table. And the system understands what is the orange bottle, where it is, and what is the top of the table to move it over there, without ever teaching it where is the orange bottle and what is the top of the table, etc. So we are currently able to generate simple scenes. You see here some interior rooms, non-medical or medical. Senlong is a system which is part of OMNI, where other current open systems are failing, like Omniverse or GPT, just using it purely. We have fine-tuned and trained another system on top of GPT to be able to use another mathematical representation that we call it conformal geometric algebra, which is basically an algebra that doesn't use coordinates. So we don't need to use any more coordinates. We can describe just the transformation of objects, rotations, translations, moving them, etc. And then the system understands the rest of the environment and has this world model that we described just before. So you see here the input prompt, move the orange bottle on top of the table next to the blue paper, and then the system realizes and does it. On the right-hand side, you see one of our AI agents. So now it's possible to have AI agents in the scene that they understand what you do. You can ask them questions, they can reply back, and you can basically have a co-pilot during the medical intervention as you move along. So what are the next steps? This is the status we are today. So what we are working on is something quite novel for us. We started all these interactions since very many years. So we realized that there are two different groups of professionals using our systems. So educators and learners, and they have different goals. So it's not enough just to help them solve some problems. It's very important to help them realize their goal. And for educators, the goal was very clear. They want to create, they want to record themselves, they want to publish very quickly a large number of medical exam simulations. That's it. On the other hand, the learners, they don't care at all about what the educators care. They just want to become proficient and competent, even if they use a robotic simulator or a box trainer or anything else. So for them, VR is basically extending the Halstead paradigm of see, do, teach, in order to become better on what they do. In bibliography, we see 100 cases allows you to move from competency to proficiency to expertise. So this is what we did and we are doing right now. This is an ongoing work. We call it Mage's Koropo, create one, record one, publish one. And for learners, we call it Mage's Sodoto. Mage's is the platform. Sodoto is the see one, do one, teach one. So as a final video, I'll just show you some of our recent ongoing results. This is part of a product called Mage's Suite, which allows both educators and learners to realize, we hope, this type of goals. Create, record, publish for the educators. So it means using the SDK without typing code, but using currently a no-code system. The Gen AI system is coming. This is what we are working on. Currently, you see here the no-code is all about visual scripting. You need to have one developer to understand what is happening. The record one is very important because for teaching, all subject matter experts, they want to impart their knowledge. So what you see over here is a recording in VR. It's not a video. So a subject matter expert can record himself or herself doing the VR operation and explaining every step of the way. And then everybody else can see it afterwards. And the final part is the publish one. So you see it like that in a very easy kind of Netflix-like application. You can publish the simulation you created. Now the learners, they can see the recording unlimited times. This is very important to see the subject matter expert performing the operation. So you see over here replay. They can choose the different recording from different subject matter expert of the same scene. And you can hear a little bit now. This is the subject matter expert. We are now in VR. This is not a video. So we can move next to him, above him. We can stop, rewind, forward as many times as we want. Then, of course, we can do in XR. So using from Apple Vision Pro that you see over here, all together with someone else in the real environment, in the virtual environment, we can perform unlimited times the medical intervention. And the last part, to teach one. Either teach our peers, we can have up to 300 participants in the operating room, or teach an AI agent. And that this AI agent can ask questions, and then depending on our answers, he can also evaluate us how well we know the subject. We know as academics, the best approach to learn really something is to having to teach it. So this is the Mage's Suite. And this is our next frontier to realize the goals of medical educators and medical learners. So, concluding this presentation, I hope that I have given you enough evidence to realize that computational science and AI with XR is here and is already transforming medicine in healthcare. There are, of course, still a lot of unanswered questions. How do we scale to full curricula? How can we improve adoption? How can we improve deployment, etc.? And I'm 100% convinced that AI and XR technologies will never replace the humans in healthcare. However, the humans who use these technologies will replace the ones who don't. thank you very much. I will be very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, George. I'm not sure, you see me here, right? Am I looking to your eyes right now? No?
Yeah. You're very well.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I would love to make a million questions, but it's not about me here today. So we have time for one question. Does anybody have questions? Question? Okay, yeah? Just a second.
So hey, George, I hope you can hear me, probably not see me, but thank you so much for giving us this interesting talk. I'm just curious a little bit about this foundation model. So I just recently read that you mentioned also this Palm, what's it called, MedPalm 2 that's trained by Google, a very specific foundation models with model with fine-tuning. And in comparison to ChatGPT 4 version, I read that in medical benchmark evaluations such as MedQA, it basically performs no better. I'm really curious about this because Google, I think, knows what they do, and they also train the models for quite some hours, I guess. So why train specific models, even if do you have any answer to this? So do you know about this problem that exists there? So is it like really we need only one state model in the end that solves most of our problems in the world model?
Right, yeah. Personally, I don't believe we will just have one large foundation model for everything. I think we are going more into the era of specialized AI agents. We see the battle between closed models and open models. We don't know which one will prevail. So I think we will have more and more specialized models because we want more of them to be accessible. We would like them to run as fast as possible. And we would like to be able to update them without having to spend millions. I mean, just to give you a size idea, Stanford has 64 A100 GPUs. This is the latest state-of-the-art GPU. It costs $30,000 for one of these. Meta has 350,000 of these GPUs. So the technologies will change. So everything currently is based on transformers. That's why it's so difficult to train. All of these systems, MedPalm, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Meta, they're trying now new technologies of how can we use less energy and less GPUs in order to have similar results. And maybe some of these results, depending on the use case, we will need to have an AI agent running, for example, on our phone. So these cannot have the resources, cannot be trained with this vast number of data. And also we want this data to be private. So just to come back, I think we will see a lot of different types of models trained on different things till we are sure that either they can represent world models or they can reason. There is a very big debate if these systems can either reason, I mean think, or they can just output the results of what they've learned. Many people believe that they just score very well because they have the answers. And we are testing them on scores, on exams that they already know the answers. So it's like having a student in a closed room with a cheat sheet and asking them questions. So until we are sure about all of this, and this is currently ongoing work, I think we will see a lot of different types of models and different types of foundational models coming up. But it's really exciting that this revolution started, and we see it's affecting medicine as well.
I'm back. George, thank you so much for your time and also for waking up so early for us. And also, again, making a reference of my fascination for Star Trek. Thank you for building the medical holodeck for all of us.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a nice rest of the day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, so to give a welcome to our next speaker, Julia Ken, I would like to highlight something very quick because we are bit behind schedule, but don't worry about it, I speak fast. So I learned through Julia that most of the cognitive neuropsychological tests are still done with pen and paper. I mean, we have seen so much technology right now, and we're still relying so much on pen and paper and at one particular moment in the patient's life. So how can we use the power of technology to change that? So with those words, I would like to invite Julia on stage. She's going to be talking about digitizing neuropsychology with eye tracking. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I wanted to say two things. Thank you for bearing with me on a Friday at 4 on one of the most rainiest days ever. I know it's not easy, so thank you for giving me some of your attention still. And thank you, Gabriela, actually. I think your positive energy throughout the day is what keeps us going, mostly. So thank you so much for your kind words and your great moderation. But let me get to my topic, back to my topic. I can talk fast as well, and I'll try to make this short and quick and sweet. And I want to start off with a bit of a provocative statement, which is that I do it, you do it, and we all do it. And what could that possibly be? And no, I'm not making a reference to Gabriela's joke earlier when she said virginity. I'm actually talking about tracking our healthcare data. I'm talking about the fact that up until very few years ago, none of us, or at least a very few of us, could have had imagined a world where tracking our health data is as easy and seamless and ubiquitous for us as brushing our teeth. I mean, most of us, we track our fitness goals. Some of us, we track how many steps we walk in a day. Some of us have wearables who tell us when to get up because we've been sitting too much. In fact, if your wearable is telling you this right now, please stand up because you have been sitting too much. We're now also starting to track the quality and the quantity of our sleep. And I believe the newest wearable devices on the market are now also able to track our blood glucose sugar levels. So that's going to be a real next breakthrough in the cardiovascular front. But obviously, all of the things that I just mentioned pay into just one domain of our overall health, and that is the cardiovascular health. And what is missing from that is the other side. And that's actually a huge problem. And let me tell you why. 1 in 3 people today, and I say today very purposefully because it's a 2024 World Health Organization, it's a long word, statistic, suffer already from a neurological condition, making it the leading cause for disability and illness in the world. The leading cause. I didn't know that. I thought it was still cardiovascular diseases. What's added to that fact is that 1 in 8 people also suffers from a mental disease or disorder, with depression and anxiety being the most prevalent ones. So those two facts, I think, combined are already paint a pretty dire picture. What is also super interesting, that's less of a problem, more of a trend, is what we can see happening ever since the beginning of this decade, is that we're moving away from a very doctor and patient-centric healthcare system and ecosystem towards a consumer-centric one. And again, I say consumer and not patient-centric, because this really pays into this idea that I was trying to build in my previous slide from us as individuals, as whole human beings, bringing our whole human beings also into the healthcare ecosystem, and not anymore just this very bidirectional doctor-patient thing, but bringing our healthcare data that we have gathered through the wearables that we're wearing. So what is the current state of affairs with cognitive assessments and cognitive analysis? I don't know how many of you in here are researchers and have seen something like this, but that is a standard EEG headset. They come in many shapes and ways and forms, but still, this is still the status quo. And obviously, as with any hardware, they have immense benefits and they have served us super well over the last at least 50 years. But there are two main problems when it comes to cognitive analysis via EEG. I mean, the very obvious one being that it doesn't look very fashionable to wear in an everyday setting. But aside from that, it's really hard to make sense of the data that comes out of an EEG when you're not a researcher or hold a PhD in data science yourself. So context is really difficult to understand. And also, it's really movement sensitive. So what you can see here is a standard thing that's happening when working with EEG, is a movement artifact. So you have to actually clean up a lot of the data when you use an EEG. The other side of things, and what you were mentioning, Gabriela, is that when someone goes into a doctor's appointment today, because they suspect having certain mental health or neurological conditions, they have to run through a very standard procedure of cognitive testing, and they're still done with pen and paper. Yes, some of them are already digitized, you do them on the screen, but the fact remains that they remain 2D, and the fact remains that they remain a single snapshot, so a one-off assessment. So you can't have this continuous element that I was mentioning before, for instance, with cognitive assessments today, as you already have with cardiovascular measurements. There is, however, an organ, and I've now clicked too soon because I wanted to build this statement, but bear with me, that could give us all of this information that I was just trying to tell you. There's an organ that is easily accessible via hardware that partners like Niels, I don't see you, but built already, and that obviously is the eye. And I'm going to build on anything that Niels has already told you in his presentation before, is that the eye holds an immense depth of data that we're only just beginning to tap into. So from fixation, saccades, gaze behavior, to pupil dilation, and other things that are super relevant to certain disease patterns, but even our everyday cognitive performance state and processes can be read, basically read from the eye. So the eyes really are not just the windows to the soul, they are the window to the brain. This is actually what Soma Reality is all about, and you've heard me say my company name now for the first time, because we are working at this exact intersection between eye tracking and executive functions or neurological processes. And it's not intentionally that this slide is so bright, but it adds a little bit to the mystique of what I'm trying to say, is that this is exactly what we're working on. We're trying to build digital biomarkers, and we've actually already succeeded in doing so, to help understand cognitive processes like cognitive load, conscious perception, attention types, memory, even things like decision making, purely based on eye tracking, and while wearing a device that you can wear every day in a continuous setting. With this, we want to ring in a new era of precise cognitive understanding. And this is actually also another picture. I'm sorry, Niels, that I'm not showing one of viewpoint system today. That's a different provider, but this is how eye tracking hardware already looks today. It doesn't look super spacey. I think it looks like a regular, maybe a bit grayish glasses that you would normally have on. And we've already seen also companies like Ray-Ban, as Niels already mentioned, incorporate these kind of analytics into their very fashionable devices. So this is where eye tracking stands today. And obviously, as a company, we need to make money somehow. So we're applying our technology in select B2B use cases. We're doing this across industry, so we're not just healthcare specific, but we do have a couple of healthcare applications. And since this is a healthcare research conference today, I brought an example from there. This is a cooperation and a project that we have with the Charité in Berlin. They're doing a study to better understand alcohol abuse. So they have built a VR scenario where they're incorporating our digital biomarkers to help better understand what is going on inside a patient's head while they're running through a scenario where they're being exposed to triggers and while they're trying to apply certain coping mechanisms. So for them, this really opens up a whole other layer of data and objective data that they couldn't have otherwise gotten through subjective questionnaires because they're applying our biomarkers. But let me leave you with this, because it's a much bigger idea than B2B use cases. I could have shown you so many more, and they're all super cool, and I love all of them. It's not about that. But as a company, we set out to do something else entirely, and it will take a little bit to get there, but we're still very well underway. And that is that vision that we want to make cognitive insights available for anyone, anywhere. And we think that we won't have to wait until 2030. I think it will be even sooner than that. Thank you.
Super bright. Thank you so much.
I was fast, wasn't I?
Yeah, I mean, I was in awe, you know, I was like, listening, like paying so much attention. I mean, what's very interesting about what Soma Reality is doing, in my view, is that mental disorders or cognition in general, no, when we have any kind of challenge when it comes to these aspects, that I heard the term invisible disorders, right? I mean, we can't really see what's going on with a person, like when it comes to our daily interactions, for example, right? But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be mindful about the situations and the challenges that these humans are going through. So I find it fascinating what you guys are doing. And yeah. So anyway, like enough about my... I'm very passionate about the topic, as you can see. Are there any questions for Julia?
It's Friday at 4.
It's Friday at 4. All right.
I just wanted to say to your statement, maybe, and it's not just about tracking health patterns or disease patterns. It's really more about this idea of making insights available that are unprecedented today. I mean, just by talking to you, I have no idea like about the measurements in my brain. And I know that sounds very, you know, either Elon Musk-y or whatever. But it's an area that we haven't yet brought to a level of continuous understanding and analysis, and I think that's really fascinating to do, and it's going to be the next big thing. So,
absolutely, a whole new level of know thyself, right?
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia. All right, so our next speaker is Frank Czarnowski. And he's going to be talking about immersive digital therapies for anxiety disorders. And I make the introduction quick and painless because it's a bit late, but welcome our great speaker. Welcome to stage.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks a lot for inviting me here today. First things first, so I want to spell out that the work we're presenting has been done by this wonderful team along with our collaborators. So all the credits go to basically Alex Kahner, Cindy Lohr, David Stahl, Dominik Pegler, then Philipp Melinczak, Mongfang Zhang, and Catherine Kostards. So let me start with the fact that anxieties can become a problem, and phobias are one example of that. I'm pretty sure that many of you can relate to these fears depicted here in one way or the other. Unfortunately, for some, these fears turn into phobias, severely impacting their daily functioning and their quality of life. And also very unfortunate, these phobias, they manifest early in life, so already our little ones are quite affected by them. The treatment of choice for phobias is exposure therapy, and essentially exposure therapy works by presenting exposure stimulus or the feared object to the patient in a safe environment, thereby them helping them to reduce their fear over time. So if you're a patient, you're confronted with these exposure stimuli, and when you learn to tolerate them, you can escalate to the next level of intensity. And exposure therapy works fairly well. Unfortunately, though, it's very time-consuming, it's very labor-intensive. There are not enough therapists offering exposure therapy, and it's also quite expensive, so this results in low treatment availability, and certainly there's a demand for scalable solutions. Now, if I talk about scalable solutions in front of an audience like this, what you have in mind, of course, is immediately XR and also AI automation, and that's indeed what we are trying to aim for. So we're trying to develop assistance systems to help clinicians, and also eventually standalone solutions for at-home treatment for prevention, because currently we don't have a preventative tool for phobias, and of course it's always better to prevent things from happening than to try to fix them later on. So here's our approach towards scalable solutions. We map the core components of exposure therapy onto something that is very well known in engineering, a dynamic closed-loop system. This, of course, does not mean that we basically say that a patient is a system and a therapist is a controller. We know that there's much more to it than that. But through this mapping, we can basically use the research framework of dynamical systems to address this in a systematic fashion as a research framework. So let's focus first on this aspect where the therapist presents exposure stimuli to the patients. And of course, the therapist has to ask himself, well, what kind of stimuli do I choose to present to the patient? And likewise, also, if you're an XR developer, you have to ask yourself, well, what does this fancy immersive stimuli actually elicit in the patient? So how can we help clinicians and also XR developers use or design appropriate exposure stimuli? The first obvious thing you can do is you can ask patients. That's what we did here. So we basically asked spider-phobics to rate, in this case, images, spider-phobia images, according to fear, disgust, avoidance. And then what you create is you create a validated database of exposure stimuli ranging from neutral to very high intense fear levels. Once you have such a database, you can, of course, also try to figure out what are the visual attributes that actually trigger fear and disgust in these patients. And we try to answer this question by combining stimulus-based information, meaning that we had independent raters that classify these spider images according to, for example, what is the texture of the spider, what is the size of the spider, and so on. And then we combine this with, in this case, interpreted machine learning to predict fear and disgust ratings. And we can do so fairly well. You can see that we can explain approximately 70% of the variance of fear and disgust ratings. We only make an average error of 7 points on a 100-point scale. And this is cross-validated, meaning that if you give us a new exposure stimulus, we can tell you just based on the visual attributes with an average error of 7 on the 100-point scale, what kind of fear or disgust the stimulus will elicit in patients. We can also tell you what are the visual attributes that actually trigger fear and disgust. And it turns out to be subjective size of the spider, the texture of the spider, prominent legs, and the distance of the spider in these images that is depicted. And we can also tell you about the directionality. So we can say, for example, that if the spider has more prominent legs, it will be more scary for patients. So we learned how these visual attributes trigger how much fear and disgust, and this can be certainly helpful for clinicians and also for developers. But now in the next step, we want to enrich this traditional intensity-based hierarchy with a diversity of stimuli, because patients are not only able to tolerate stimuli of different intensities, but also a diverse set of stimuli in this case for a better generalization of the exposure results. In order to achieve that, you need a multidimensional map of the exposure stimuli. So how can you achieve such a multidimensional characterization? We used here a data-driven approach based on similarity judgments in combination with multidimensional scaling. So basically, this is, we asked spider-phobics to perform a spatial arrangement task. You can see here they're presented with a set of exposure stimuli, spider exposure stimuli, and they simply have to group them in space according to similarity. Now, at the end of this experiment, what you have is you have a similarity matrix of different stimuli, of these exposure stimuli, and then you can use multidimensional scaling to basically characterize the space, to diversify your set of stimuli, to in the end achieve a better generalization of your exposure therapy. So I hope that I was able to show how we can understand this phobia space better through creating validated stimulus databases using ratings, through assessing the predictive power of visual attributes using machine learning, and revealing similarity representations for a better generalization. And I think a better psychological understanding of this space, a better understanding from the perspective of human experience is important for the selection and customization of stimuli, following then personalized exposure hierarchies. This, of course, was only touching on one part of this research framework, but I hope I could also demonstrate how one can sketch exposure therapy as a dynamic system. To establish this useful framework, then I was talking about understanding the phobia space, how it's crucial basically to deliver suitable exposure stimuli. And this is part of a whole research agenda that we follow to establish e-health solutions that are affordable and scalable and so on. So today I focus mainly on, as you can see, on the psychological phobia space mapping, only on one part of it, because I think despite our enthusiasm for new technologies and AI, and I'm a hardcore enthusiast when it comes to these methods, I think what we still shouldn't forget is that basically the human experience is still key. And this is the starting point for developing these technologies in a meaningful direction, basically. What I didn't cover today was the integration of multimodal biosignals. We heard about eye tracking. We also have results regarding eye tracking. They are predictive also for fear, how we can integrate them to better understand the patient's state. What I also didn't cover was how we can develop learning AI algorithms to select the optimal stimulus based on our knowledge of this phobia space, and how we can implement all of this in a user-centered design implementation using immersive AI. So, AR, sorry. So all of these innovations now have been established in the spider phobia use case, but our pipeline, our approach can of course also be applied easily to other conditions. It's just a use case to at the end of the day arrive at a customized clinician assistance system, because resources in mental health care are limited. We need scalable solutions, and eventually a standalone solution for prevention at home in at-risk individuals. When my kids start showing signs of fear of spiders, I don't run to a psychotherapist. I need a low-threshold intervention to stop fully phobia manifestation already early on, and that's why we need low threshold tools. I think the true take-home message is that in order to improve the quality and access to mental health care, we need to look at things from different perspectives, including the clinician's perspective, engineering, and also biology or neuroscience. So clearly, teamwork is needed here. And should you be interested in joining our team to bring these innovations closer to the patient in the context of a startup, don't hesitate to get in touch. Thanks for your attention. It was also fast.
Thank you very much, Frank. By the way, the coolest t-shirt. The coolest shirt. Sorry.
I like robots.
This is beautiful. Does anybody have a question for Frank? Yeah.
So the question would be, so at the beginning you mentioned that it's also about scaling in the future and making this more accessible to people, but in the end you also say it's kind of personalization is important and AI. So in the specific case of phobia, how much personalization do you already have or is necessary? How would you approach this?
Well, also here, I think a good understanding of the stimulus space, of the phobia space, is the basis for personalization, because what we can do is similar to the cold start problem of Netflix and Amazon, whatever. We have the patient come into the lab, basically, or into the office, and then we can do a few quick trials and a few questionnaire information for a bit of demographics information, and we use that information to basically tailor already the stimuli we will present. And then we have a framework that is learning. So basically, as we go along, as they also rate their experience with the ongoing stimuli, we tailor it and we optimize, we take this information into account, and we have a learning algorithm. So that's the idea behind it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. Let's give a round of applause to Frank. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. And we have the last talk of today. That is Matej Kapatu and Michael Kindl-Insberger. How did I do? Yes. Yeah. Improving my German. So they're going to be sharing their talk on user acceptance of spatial computing. Welcome. Let's give a round of applause for our guests.
With the clicky thingy. Einfach grün nehme ich an. Okay, hi, hello. Welcome to our deep dive number 4 talk. It's let's see, investigating user acceptance of spatial computing for person-centered care. Good title, that, I think, yes. So Michael and I will be talking about our Smart Companion project, which is the combination of vacuum cleaner robots with voice assistants. So the guy on the left, not the guy on the, oh, sorry, my left? Right, no, left is right. Not this person here, although I'm sure he's a nice companion and probably smart too, but yeah. I brought a quote with me. I don't know if you know it, but I love it. With one bit of improvement. Right, okay, now it fits better. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think we all want that. We all wish for this to happen. And you could expand this to technology in general, especially for vulnerable people groups, which we did. We had to look at the elderly. Because I really think we have the tools available to improve the quality of life, even if it's only a single specific use case. And we had to look at one, which was falls or fall detection. They can be quite severe. They can have dire consequences for the elderly. 1,000 medical ones that I won't even bore you with. But it's also quite traumatizing. Like imagine this happened to you, and you can't get up, you can't help yourself. You'd feel scared in your own home, thinking this would happen again. That's really scary, and also can influence some other aspects of your life. And there are systems available to help you in such cases. But also very often they are also only purchased after such a thing happens, which I think it's a bit too late. Who knows what happens the first time? And the other aspect which we think we can improve is vacuuming. Vacuuming is hard. I don't like it. And I'm sure 70, 80-year-old people also don't like it. In fact, in surveys, many mentioned that this is the second hardest task that they do at home. The first one being window washing, though I'm not sure that they should be doing that. It sounds a bit risky to me. Yes, anyway, so we think that having a device at home that, you have it there anyway to help with the vacuuming, to then expand this with smart sensors, for fall detection, for very accurate fall detection, and with a voice assistance could really be a reliable system for emergencies. And yes, I have it's pretty more here. So we have thought of a couple of scenarios where this could help. One being when the person is unconscious, and just to show you, okay, so the robot will go, beep, I've detected that you've fallen, okay, I'll call an emergency service. And what I also like about this is that it speaks to you even though you're unconscious, and it knows that you're unconscious. But this way we can show transparency. So with the smart companion having a voice, we want to show the person, the user, what it does at all times, ideally, so that they're not scared of a thing just running around in their flat. And in another case where perhaps you are still conscious but not able to move or not able to get help because your device is on a chair, on a table, it could come to you, it could find you, and you could say, yes, please, I need help, I need an emergency service. And what we like about this is that if you use your voice, then it's not, again, another app that you have to install and update, or a button that is exactly not available when you fall and when you can't even reach up a chair. And with the voice you have with you usually, except for the first case. And yes, we could also, with the technology available to us, we could also detect fall hazards, such as bags or a bent-over carpet. And we've developed this quite successfully, I think, and deployed it in an assisted living facility operated by your organization. And we've had this at, the people have had this in their home with a little break in between so that we can already work on the feedback, on the improvements, which is also an approach that we've used throughout the whole project, this user-centered design, in order to quickly add the improvements or fix problems based on what the users tell us to do. And I think you're going to tell us about the results.
Yeah, from my side, maybe you're waiting for some technical details on this project, but they won't come because Matthijs and my part in this project are mainly the social side or the medical side, and not the technical side. So I will give you some insights on the configuration discussions with our test users, and also afterwards some of the results which we got after the deinstallation of the system. Because we think there is some very useful information that we could gather out of these discussions. So we are starting with people everybody has an own perception of their own age, their own aging, their fragility, and also their effectiveness of their aging. So everybody perceives his own age or his own medical status, so if you will, in a different way. We also have a different range of technology acceptance in our user base, and also a different kind of usage history. So are the people using a technology like mobiles or other devices for themselves, or just ask their son or their daughter to help them with it? So it varies very much. But what we found is one particular important part for our project is there is a great acceptance for collecting of data. But you have to tell them why. It has to be reasonable, it has to be understandable for the user why we collect this data. We needed it for training the model, the picture detection model, and so on, which was very important and was very useful. We learned that giving tailored information to elderly people is also important because we needed to gain a basic understanding of our goals in the project so that the user knows why he is giving this data to us. He won't understand a 20 pages contract on privacy things, so you have to make it face-to-face. There are some results which we got after the first field tests of the first 4 persons, and there was a long discussion on the ethic boards about anthropomorphization, which was very lively discussed, but in practical reasons it is just unavoidable. All the people created some kind of hybrid relationship with the robot. They viewed them as pets or like a dog or a cat. And I put a quote in there. I tried to translate it to English. English is kind of quirky German grammar in this quote. But it showed that every user somehow viewed the robot as a pet and also interacted with the robot like a pet. So they talked to it, they called it silly when they did something they couldn't understand, and so on. What we didn't expect is that there was almost no hesitation to use this new technology from the end user. We gave them just kind of a cheat sheet, so to say, where they had all the possible commands which they could use. And they used it, they tried everything out, but we found afterwards that they also found new ways to use this device, which was not planned at all. So they used the Alexa for music, but they also searched for recipes in the internet or asked about the weather. So there is no hesitation whatsoever if the user sees his own benefit in the technology. So, and time says I'm finished. So thank you for your attention. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. I have to say this. I have 2 vacuum robots at home, and they're both my cat's nemesis. So I imagine if they look like my cat is going to think that he got an emperor or something. So
funny, our actual user has 2 cats at home, and they ignore the robot mainly. They're just lying there and get bumped by it, but they don't mind any.
Nice. No, of course. No, mine is a bit of a chicken. Okay. Chicken cat. All right. So does anybody have a question? I don't see too much. Yeah. Okay. Well, I understand. Think not, but I guess I understand.
but we will be there a few more minutes, so yes. If something comes up, please.
Absolutely. I'll be the first one to ask you a couple of things. So thank you so much for being here today. It's nice to meet you in person, by the way. And let's give a round of applause for our 2 speakers. So I forgot my notes, so I treat you like family already, you see? I mean, I'm just going around and here and there and everywhere. So we have a panel discussion right now, and I will take off my moderation hat and I will put on my expert hat right now. because I'm going to be part of the panel. So I'm going to let Vanessa introduce the panel. Yes? So,
thank you, guys. You can stop being moderator now and be one of our panelists. And I'll also ask Niels and what's this, Bright Anka, could you please come up as well? And Nina, we could maybe start the panel discussion, which is going to be about, well, everything we've heard so far, really. Please take your seats anywhere. I will sit here, I think, at the end. So I think you know by now very, very well our panelists. And so you've seen that we have here a selection of experts who are coming from very, very different areas. So we have Niels, who's very much focused on technology and technological trends and eye tracking and so on. We have Anka, who has her focus on the patient experience and how can we improve that patient experience. Nina, who is working on combining her vision of having, better therapies and better trainings for healthcare workers through extended reality, and also Gavs, who has this whole idea of using XR and VR for creative media, if I understand correctly. And so would like to actually start with addressing perhaps one of the biggest questions that I heard when everybody was speaking, and I quote here from George, for example, AI and XR will never replace humans in healthcare. We also have Frank saying the human experience is key. And a lot of people, it seems, and I think the audience also, is asking the question, so where is the line, where should the line be between where the human has to be involved, where we need the connection, we need to see into each other's eyes, and maybe not through a pair of glasses, but directly, and where is all these other tools that you've all been talking about, going into the metaverse, having a training in virtual reality, where they would actually maybe make us more human, maybe make us more able to connect because we're more resilient, because we have a better experience in the hospital, so we can actually look at the doctor and say, hey, this is what I need, and express ourselves better, where we're able to just be more ourselves. So maybe you could tell me, where you think, for you, where that line is, like personally, and when you look at your projects, when you look at your technology, where is it for you? And I'll start with Gus, because you've been, of course, not giving a talk.
All right, I will try to summarize my thoughts for the sake of time, because I love this topic very much. I think one thing that we need to keep into consideration, that we were all talking about this, is that technology is an enhancement in this context and not a replacement, right? But enhancement and replacement can mean different things for different people, right? For example, if we have a lack of expertise, for example, if we have a lack of a certain professional that needs the help of technology, for example, I come from South America. Sometimes we don't have the expert or the medical expert in order to treat certain conditions or certain diseases, right? But at the same time, if I hear things like, no, now with AI, like AI is going to just, revolutionize healthcare, and it's going to, take the human out because we're going to have this solution. Yeah, but what happens to the important fight that is actually getting the resources in order to have these professionals taking care of fellow humans? Because in the end, at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? So we want to be cared for, we want to be appreciated, we want to be acknowledged. So I think this line is not permanent, so to say, and it's also something that it will depend very much on the intention of the creator behind the solution to know how far we can go closer to that line. That's all I can say about it without getting too passionate about it.
Okay, I step into that. So I totally agree with Gabs. And I'm a clinical psychologist and a neuropsychologist. And I had 8 years of intense education in my field to treat patients, and I do not want to get replaced. So I agree with that. And I think it's not possible to replace us healthcare workers or clinicians. But what I think, and now I have to refer to the talk of Julia, I've done in my work, in my clinical work in the psychiatric hospital, I think, or I guess, about 500 neurocognitive assessments with our patients. And at the moment, I do not have time for that. So it's because we have the paper pencil inventories, and it's not possible for us psychologists to do that, so nobody does it. And for example, also in other treatments, we do not have the resources. So at the moment, we are evaluating a robot, a social robot, who is going through the department, and maybe in future this robot, he's called Pepper in our department, will help us and assist us. And I think that's a really, really big chance, and also using extended realities as add-on treatment. So for me, that's really, really important that we do research on that we think about that, but it will never be a replacement, because there's something lacking and something what technology cannot provide, and that's empathy. Maybe in future there will be things to overcome this, but at the moment I think no, and empathy is a human thing, and so it's not a replacement, but it's a really, really good and revolutionizing add-on thing, and I'm really happy to have technology also come into psychiatry, and it's a big chance for us.
I don't really have an answer to this for the following reason. If I have to simplify it a lot, I think that doctors bring experience, expertise, and empathy, if we have to really make it very simple. With artificial intelligence, we remove the expertise because it can be brought by an algorithm that reads images as well as a doctor, for instance. You cannot replace experience, although, because that's clinical experience, that's what the doctor has lived through. And can you replace empathy? Initially, I thought no. So there's still a lot of value for healthcare professionals. And then I saw a couple of things that made me really question it. First of all, there's been this study, I don't know if it was very public here in Austria. In France, we heard of this study that compared how much empathy patients felt when talking to ChatGPT versus talking to their doctor. And they felt more empathy talking with ChatGPT than talking to their doctor. And the second thing that had me question this is that we worked on a podcast about prostate cancer. And prostate cancer touches men over 50 years old. And these people are not usually very open to talk about their health. And so they go to ChatGPT to ask all the questions they have about prostate cancer because they don't feel judged. And so just with these two examples, it really has me questioning, where is that limit? And when I thought I had a clear answer saying that this is what AI does and this is what us as humans we do, now I don't really have an answer to that anymore. So it's more food for thought rather than a precise answer.
I even forgot the question. Some bullshit bingo. Empathy? No.
The question
no,
was...
I was just joking. Don't ask the question again. We don't have too much time left. Everything has been said. I do take along. I have a generic approach. Technology should serve humans, not the opposite way around. When you develop something, you should have in mind that a human being might get in touch with it. So as soon as technology just serves the technology as such, I have an issue with that. So it's a generic approach. And from a social being perspective, and I still believe we humans are social beings, this human touch is something that never, ever is going to be replaced by a robot or by an algorithm. It can pretend, but it ain't. So I still firmly believe in the human touch still has a reason to exist and will become possibly even more important when everything around you might get automated and someone treats you as a human being. But I firmly believe in human touch.
Okay, go ahead. I love this.
Something I forgot, like it is usually arriving a bit later, no, the information. And thank you for triggering this news. So what I'm concerned about this line, no, is the standardization of knowledge. Like, for example, if we think of, I'm a writer as well, so I would talk about like writing, no? So I am fed up with receiving ChatGPT generated messages because it's standardizing communication. No, I mean, I'm tired of embarking on journeys. I'm tired of summaries. I'm tired of playing the ChatGPT bingo. No, so every time we implement a new technology, we're also sacrificing something else, right? I mean, like the same way that we drive cars now, well, we should ride the train, not cars, but you know what I mean? We can't run as fast anymore. Then like we're always sacrificing something to get something in return. So we have to be sure that what we're sacrificing is actually, let's say, less meaningful than what we gain in return. You know? So I think this is what is going to define the line, right? I mean, like, of course, we're all busy. Of course, we want to treat as many patients as possible. But if we prioritize efficiency and speed over the care that we were talking about, over empathy, then that's the only thing I wanted to say. That's it.
I also want to add something just very short. You nailed it exactly. Doctors are lacking empathy, but shouldn't we invest more in training the empathy with technology than to invest into the technology to replace doctors? So I think we should train them. We should invest in the healthcare workers by using technology. That's the only thing I wanted to add here.
Nailed it.
So I'm going to pick up, Gabs, on what you were saying about for every new technology or a new innovation we introduce, we tend to have to sacrifice something. So for example, when we decide that we want to get very quickly from A to B, we accepted that we're going to have traffic accidents, people are going to die on the roads. And we've just said, okay, on the balance, it's more important to have this mobility. So what do you think, for whatever you're doing, your personal project or extended reality in general, I can leave it open, we might be sacrificing them. It could be data privacy, for example. I think that came out with Niels. What kind of data are we giving up when we use these technologies? And what might, how can we make sure that the sacrifice is nowhere larger than the benefit that we might get from what is being produced? Or how do you do it in your projects? I mean, you're all creators, you're all making something. So how do you ensure that when someone takes what you've made, that what they're giving up is less than what they're gaining in terms of benefit? Anybody?
We try to summarize it again. I mean, of course, it's difficult sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's not very easy to say, okay, I know what I'm sacrificing in order to get there. I mean, a lot of these times is like, okay, we need to try it out in order to know what's going to happen, no? I mean, of course, in healthcare is a more delicate topic than in applied immersive entertainment. I mean, that's a different story. But I forgot what I was going to say. let me think. The way I do things, no, is I don't want technology to give me an autopilot. You know, I mean, for me, the danger is to say, okay, I automate so much that I make it about the process and not about the meaning. No? So for me, when it starts being more about how efficient I can make a solution, without thinking of the human that is going to be interacting with this experience, then that's the moment I realize that I have an issue with this. Because in the end, as Neil said, I mean, we're creating technology for the benefit of humankind. I mean, if we just create technology for technology's sake, we're just developing a gadget, but not really a solution for people. And yeah.
Yeah, I do not exactly understand the question to bring it in my field, because I'm now a researcher since 15 years and do research in psychiatric samples. And however, I understand the question, and of course, we need the patients to come to our lab, then they do testings and talk with us so that we get our data. However, I always see the benefits beyond, so that we can create better therapies or develop better interventions based on the data. So I've never seen that the patients sacrifice anything when they come to my research lab. However, I understand what you mean, and maybe we always have to keep that in mind, and therefore we have good ethic committees that look over our study protocols. But for me, always research is benefiting or bringing good outcomes. But I do not know if I have understood the question exactly. But I think we have to keep it in mind, and of course, people give data so that we can do something with that, and that has to be a balance. So, but for us, I think we should always see the impact of our research and to gain better patient outcomes.
I think that with any tech solution in healthcare, you have your traditional benefit-risk balance, or here more of the gain-sacrifice balance. And I would divide this in two parts. When you have your traditional medical devices, perhaps you're gaining a lot of reliability and quality in the service or the solution that's provided, but you sacrifice a lot maybe of the user experience and accessibility and things like that. And then you have your consumer solutions. In the consumer solutions, you gain accessibility, ease of use, etc., but you lose all the security, perhaps, all the control over your health data, and so on. So it's really a trade-off, and I don't think that we will ever reach that sweet spot where we only have gains and no sacrifices, but we just really have to be very careful how we educate the users to pick which solution they want, but based on transparent and clear information on what are the gains and the sacrifices, just as we do with any type of other health product, any drug or any medical device, where you know this is what you're gaining and this are the side effects that you have with it. And I feel like for the consumer devices, we're not clear on that. We know what the gains are, we don't know what we're sacrificing.
Personalization as well.
No? Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Personalization, that's what we were saying, no? That if we think of a solution that we can create here, like a technological solution here, is not the same technological solution that we would use elsewhere in the world, for example, right? I mean, just when it comes to human interaction, right? I mean, here in Austria, my human interaction is quite different than it is at home. So for me, empathy means something here, and it means something in my home country. You know? So especially in the world of technology that is very global, right? I mean, like when we use technology, we try to go on a global scale, to be implemented globally, and to be able to serve as many people as possible. But in the end, we need to think of personalization to the point of, okay, I acknowledge that my technology might go global, but I need to be flexible enough in order to adapt it to every culture in the end, like for the cultural adoption of the solution in order for it to be meaningful. That's just my 2 cents. Sorry, Inez.
Done.
We're a good match, you know? You and I like talk.
I do not envy those two in between of us. It's like, no. I might have a bit of a more, again, generic approach. I think innovation always comes at a price. You don't know when you have to pay it and how high the price might be. Unfortunately, the discussion is very much driven by fear of the unknown. That's also part of the innovation. So there are a few things like fail early, fail cheap, take your lessons away from it, do it better. But it always will come at a price. What I liked is if we can substitute stuff that's easy reproducible by whatsoever, a robot, an AI, whatsoever, it gives us the opportunity to upskill or reskill humans. Meaning, I do not envy MDs. I couldn't do it. Too much personal involvement, things, messages you have to get across without burning the bridge. But you know, what you said, okay, if I have more time, I could invest into doctors being coached, upskilled towards being more human. Now the doctor tries to treat you as a robot without emotion, like. So if that can be taken away, the analytical part, there could be a price we should pay, potentially. So there are always gains in it. We might not see it right from the beginning. But the thing is, innovation is not about thinking it through. It's starting it with the first step and then learning whilst walking. So my advice, no, it's not an advice, it's just start doing, and then whilst walking, figure out where you knock your head on and try to avoid it the next 15 meters, but you have to pay a price. Very simple. Not negatively always.
Thanks very much. I mean, that kind of reminds me of what Matthias said, the quote that he had I want AI to help me with my laundry and my dishes so that I have time for art and writing and not the other way around. And I think that's maybe the next question. How can we ensure that people have that choice, that they can decide for themselves that I want the AI to do this and this and this, but not this, because this is part of me, it's part of who I am. And that's the human part. Like, how can we... how do you think it's possible to give people enough choices and to explain to them these choices? Like not you know, when you go on the internet and then there's always this box that pops up and asks you do you agree, and a whole bunch of stuff, and nobody understands half of the things that are on there, so everyone just clicks OK. That's not a real choice. I mean, talking about giving people real choices. Do you have any ideas about how you can give people real choices in terms of deciding for themselves, in terms of using technologies that you're involved in? I want this, but not that. I'll start this end.
Ouch. Do we have a choice? I don't think so. I think one of the things that might help us is education. So understanding the consequences of using something, thinking it through as a user, giving the possibility to understand what the tool, the technology is doing. So that would mean we have a choice. To a certain extent, I don't think we have a choice, because it's just happening with or without our consent. It sounds a bit dystopian, but as I said, if I don't do it with our company, someone else will do it. So I decided I'll do it. It's Darwinistic to a certain extent, but I don't believe that we will have a choice in everything. So I'm sorry, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade.
I completely agree. I don't think we really have a choice. I mean, we do have a choice in the sense that we can choose not to use a computer today, not to use a mobile phone, not even to use our TV. That's our choice. So we have a choice not to use AI. But what happens once we make that choice? People who have access, for instance, as a company, I will hire the people who know how to use AI, because that's what I need for my business, and that's what I need to create the solutions that will appeal to my clients. So you have the choice, but then will you act based on that choice? What are you going to choose? And once you choose, I think the idea is not do we have a choice, is the choice that we are given, does that correspond to our values, and is that leading us in the direction that we want to go? And this is more based on the people who develop these solutions and what how they develop them and where they are taking us, rather than us and as individuals choosing between using or not using.
I believe the answer could be to improve decision making in people is education. I don't have other ideas at the moment. So people need knowledge and more education. It's only education for this question.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, take literacy in the end. I mean, like, we have so much technological revolution, but at the same time, we can't sometimes learn as fast as technology evolved. Yet we need to understand what we're getting into, you know. And I will bite the hand that feeds me when it comes to this, no. But marketing also has an effect on the decisions that we make, right? Because sometimes it's not about what's right, it's about what joins us to the tribe, right? So if we see that the tribe is implementing certain things, then we would want to do it for the sake of the tribe. And we live in a world that, well, social media or marketing has an influence in our lives. So I think there's still, there's a lot of work to be done in differentiating between what is tactics to sell something and actually technology that is benefiting your life and in general. You know? I mean, I think there's a disbalance there. You know? For example, I will give an example, like when we would talk about training, for example, the train the trainer, right? So I saw a picture not so long ago of a headset manufacturer standing in front of a school with several headsets and the students holding the headset and saying, oh, wow, we are investing in the future of education. And the first thing I thought is, okay, are you going to train the teachers as well how to use this technology? And if so, do they have to use their own time on the side to learn about this? Or are you going to implement it in their work hours? And if so, how? I mean, it's not just about like, okay, here's a technological revolution, here, have it, no? I mean, that we have to also consider the person that is going to be distributing this technology, and also think of the human, right? I mean, keeping the human in the loop. Easier to be said than done, because at the end of the day, I understand your needs, no? I mean, if we don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So we have the pressure of implementing technology before anyone else, because we trust that our solution is going to be the best, or one of them at least. And we have to think of so many things in parallel, right? I mean, how to bring a solid solution to our users, how to keep it ethical and safe. Also, how to be the first ones, and also I speak of Europe right now, right? I mean, like if we are taking so much care in the how do you call it? In the regulation of the use of groundbreaking technology, we know already that we're going to be in a bit of a slower pace than other parts of the world. So how do we deal with that, for example? So it's very difficult to, in my view, it's very difficult to kind of understand like how to put all these things together and yet again be responsible in what we're doing. Mm-hmm.
I add something. Decision-making is a very individual process. So how can you ensure that the decision you've made is the right one? And I work at the moment in a project funded by the government of Styria, and this project is called Artificial Competence. And in this project, we educate students between 15 and 18 years to use artificial intelligence and to use it to make good decisions. And what is a good decision? A good decision is a decision which makes you feel confident. And we should talk more about artificial competence, as our project title is. I'm sorry.
Do you want to say something? So if I was to summarize what I'm hearing, it is that this technology, we're talking about AI, we're talking about XR, metaverse, all this technology is just coming, and there's no one really has in that sense, no individual has a choice about whether they can participate. Oh, they can have that choice, but then they kind of dissociate themselves basically from a lot of society, which comes with a huge sacrifice. And even you, as people who are creating technologies and so on, don't really have a choice, because if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So actually nobody really has that just to say, okay, you know, the only thing, we just have to go with this wave wherever it's going. And the only thing we can do as individuals is to educate ourselves so that we can, as much as possible, have this decision-making capacity moment by moment to navigate what's going on. Is that, would you agree that that's basically the message here? And as we're almost at time, I think that's a really good way perhaps to end it. And do you have any other points perhaps? Because we have here, I should mention that we have here a lot of students. We have basically the next generation of you know, digital technologists, healthcare professionals, and so on. So they are going to be, I guess, either encouraged or inspired by what you say. And if you have one thing to tell our students, what would that be?
We are hiring. No, that's true. That's true, by the way. Wow. Again, don't be driven by fear of missing out. Stay curious. Find your own answers. Don't believe every bullshit that has been easily presented to you by a stupid device you asked a question to. That would be my next startup I would do, is to find a tool that figures out whether AI is bullshitting you. So that would be potentially a good countermeasure. No, but I think still what sets us apart from machines still is human curiosity, and that's the driver behind cool stuff. Whenever it becomes kind of a mass phenomenon, I suggest you just walk away.
I don't know yet. You go first. Yeah, keep on going. We clinicians and medical science people and mental health experts, we definitely need you now and in future.
I promise to be quick now. So my advice to you would be, there's no risk-free innovation, like we were discussing before during the brunch. Because if we are not risking anything, we're not gaining anything. And if we are trying to innovate, then if we call it innovation just to take an idea and just changing a bit the makeup and then calling it innovation, that's not innovation. That's just more of the same, right? And innovation is scary. So taking risks is scary. But we need courage for that, right? And courage, like I will quote Susan David, that is one of my favorite authors. She said, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is fear walking. So keep fear walking in order to achieve innovation.
Yeah. No, really, I just wanted to add that we were discussing earlier if the young generation should listen to advice from other people. Yes, listen to advice from two types of people: your clients who tested your idea and your product and give you feedback. And the second category of people is those who achieved what you're striving to achieve. The rest, you can ignore them. So if we're not in those two categories, you can ignore us altogether.
So thanks very much. That was our panel discussion, and I think we hopefully have given you some ideas to think about on the way home. Hopefully you can get home on this very rainy day. Let's see. Snowy? Okay. And do you want to say some words?
Yes, because this is something that you can't say, but I can. Nothing of this knowledge that you got today wouldn't have been possible without the amazing work of Vanessa and the work of Jakob here. Because is that enough? Is that enough just to be an expert here? But it's also facilitating this knowledge to all of us. So thank you very much for putting this amazing event together and for making us part of it. And we keep seeing. There's still some snacks? Okay, I stay now. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that, like, thank you very much for your effort. We can see your effort, and we hope to see many editions to come.
Thank you, Gabs, for amazing moderation. I think Julia was right. You have kept the energy in the room super high through this whole afternoon, also in the branch before. And yeah, it was great to have you to moderate for us today. And thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the speakers as well. And Jacob, shall we just, do you want to say anything else?
Daniela Zeilinger did some great event management. Thank you so much.
Great. All right. We're done. Thank you very much for being here, and stay in touch. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was great.
Liz, it was such a pleasure to well, see you in real life. See you in real life.
Yes,
as well.
absolutely.
And learn about what you do. Like, as a, I don't want to put a woman card. Like, we have to be in more conferences so we can see each other.